That too. Should eat your speech, but did you like that? I thought you might want to keep it if you want, but anyway, you can, Mike.
All right, we're ready now. Let me turn this on. There we go. Okay, it's a little after 7:04, calling the board meeting, September 6th, special board meeting to order. Roll call, I believe Andy is going to be late tonight, otherwise it looks like everyone else is here, except Rich. Rich is having a medical procedure today, if I remember correctly.
So he will not be coming.
He will not be coming. Okay. So, we have the agenda in front of us, and we need to decide whether or not to update or amend. Yes, ma'am.
I'm thinking because we have a special guest here this evening to present one of these, which is under 6A4, EDR request regarding the hazardous tree removal. I'm wondering if we can move that to the first one to discuss, or she can go home.
No,
She's been working all day.
that's not a problem. Yeah. Move it. Yeah, make that.
Let's not spoil the staff. The first capital request.
Yeah, it'll be the first capital request. It'll be number 1.
You've been over.
Anything else?
I don't know if now's the right time, but for the future discussion, since the finance committee it's a joint finance committee and board meeting, could we make, maybe when that time comes, we propose to make it a quasi-committee of the whole or a committee of the whole or something like that?
Let's bring that. That's a procedural thing. That's not okay. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to ask for that, since you noted earlier. I know we've limited all property owner comments to budget only the first. I think
sit up here and say that does that mean does it mean we're going to get better services? Does it mean the roads are going to be repaired right? I just don't see a human being can decide to jack up the dues 88%. Does it even matter that people are going to lose their homes, or don't you care about it? As long as the golf course is here and the new barn, all this other stuff that we don't need. I own my house for a home, not for an investment. I don't care if my property value goes up. I care that I have a safe place to live. Our house is going to be paid off in a year. If this goes through, we will lose our house. And to me, that's unacceptable. And I will do everything. I don't care about the rules, about knocking on doors. I will go door to door to everybody in this community and let them know what's going on, because I will make sure that we get 60% no votes. And that's all I got to say.
Just a small item of information. The 60% no vote will be of no effect. Yes, sir.
What do you mean by 66% no effect?
And a 60% will just go up there and do your name and where you're located.
Yeah. What do you mean by 66%?
I don't mean anything by 66. 60%.
Okay, 60%.
Used to be the required amount or percentage for passing a dues increase. That no longer exists due to state law.
In other words, you have to have 60%.
No.
You don't. Just the majority.
It works backwards. You have to reject the proposed budget by more than 50% of all possible votes.
50% plus one.
Of all possible votes,
Right.
not just those
Yeah.
who do vote.
So that's half.
Half, yes.
How many residents are here?
3,154.
And what's their voting record like? I'm just asking. I just moved here, so
Could we have name and location, please?
Oh,
Raul Becerra, Gate 3. Gate 3?
oh, Gate 3. Oh,
Gate 3.
little vague, but
Well, I mean, Gate 3, 9, Inglewood
there you go.
Place.
Thank you.
Anyways, so you have 50%. You have to have 50% plus one. Well, the reason I'm asking is the Sun Valley newspaper, are you going to put out information on all the details? On,
Yes, we always do that.
and another thing, I've seen this before. I've been here before in another condo complex, and they're in deep trouble. And I concur with what he's saying, pretty much. Are you going to raise the dues or propose that dues go up 188? Is that right?
We have not made any such decision whatsoever.
Okay.
The purpose of tonight's meeting is to discuss the needs of the community.
Okay.
And then to begin the process of making a decision, which has not occurred.
Okay, I understand that. I'm just trying to get some information.
No,
I
I'm
just-
directing that a lot
Right.
to the audience,
Yeah.
not directly to you.
I just moved here in May. Now,
Welcome.
thank you. Well, it's just puzzling to me. It seems that I agree with him. The priorities are I don't understand. I don't know what the process was to rebuilding those swimming pools. I mean, did you have a professional contractor who deals with swimming pools?
We had all of that. And
Okay,
it was a
so-
long process,
Right.
initiated and,
Right.
and directed by the board, and then directed and carried out under the management of our general manager and our construction managers, which we hired for the purpose of managing the actual work.
So what did it start off at? What was the value of the first contract you had with the
Sir, we have a very limited amount of time. If you would like to ask
Okay.
specific questions along those lines, just wait a minute, hold on. Our general manager would be happy to give you that information.
Okay,
We don't have it right off the
I think I have a pretty good idea. the total cost was $600,000. Okay? 2 swimming pools are outdoors that nobody's gonna hardly ever use. I mean, how long have you lived here?
That's really irrelevant.
A long time. I've been here since 1974. And it's rare that we get maybe, within those years that I've been here, maybe 2 summers of hot summers from July to August. What's the rationale of having 2 swimming pools on the outside? Why not? If it was in the inside, I get that. I understand that. Because you can use it all year round. You can use it in the wintertime. But you build 2 swimming pools. It seems to me like this association is going towards, there's no other word, but a country club. It really does. Based on all the information I got so far, and I'm not finished getting it,
We have the time.
how much time do I have? Well, how much time do I have?
You have 3 minutes.
Okay.
So I guess we'll give you 2 now.
Oh, I appreciate that. So I will do it as fast as I can, okay? You got 2,600 units, right? That pay dues, roughly. So that's about 86 times 52, that's about 22,495 a month. Times a year is $269,942. Now, one more question and I think I'm done. Your union dues, if you do pass it, are you going to go to the bank and see if you qualify for perhaps another loan and maybe do a special assessment? I see a special assessment coming down the road, is what I see. Possible. Yes or no?
We have not made any such.
Maybe have you thought about that?
We have not made any such decision.
Okay,
All
okay.
those kinds of discussions take place at the finance committee, which is an open meeting,
Okay.
and at the board meeting. And we're going to be starting that discussion
Okay.
tonight.
Okay, if and when you do or not, it would be nice, at least give us 2 months ahead of time. You put it on the newspaper, the details of what the dues is going to cost, and if there's going to be a special assessment. We would appreciate to know that ahead of time.
Oh, that is absolutely our long-standing practice, has been every year since I know about it.
And just the last thing I'll say is, please consider, be wise with your budget. Very, very wise, because there are a lot of people here that are on fixed incomes. They're retired, and there are some people that are wealthy, and there's nothing wrong with that. They earned it, fine. You want a golf course, then fine, go golf. But you ought to have a system. You got a gym here, a gym was taken over from YMCA, is that right?
Yes.
So now you got a gym you got to maintain. Now, it looks like this barn is ready to come down. That's going to probably need maintenance. So the list is just endless. So my last point is, pay what you have, deal with the budget you have and don't extend that, and then take one project at a time. And when that budget fills up back, and then you just take one at a time. But if you overextend yourself, you're going to put us in a bind. You're going to put the homeowners in a big, big bind.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any further comments on the budget? Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Rich Hart, 19 Sweet Clover Circle, Gate 5. So, gosh, the budget. I mean, I wouldn't want to be in any of your shoes with the proposal that's been put forward in front of you, because it's unreal. I mean, it's more than a car payment for me. I have 2 cars that I pay on. That's the potential for the dues to go up more than a car payment a month for a father with 2 kids, a wife that works full-time, and for that to be something that might break our household budget is awful. We moved here because of the community, because we love the area, because we love our neighbors. We didn't move here so that we could be, for all intents and purposes, taxed out of our home. So there are extra amenities that are not wants, are not needs. They are absolute wants. I want a marina. I don't need it. I want a pool. I don't need it. I want a library. I don't need it either. I ask you to pay attention to the needs. The needs of the people out here are roads. are safety and security in their homes, the ability to get to and from those homes, no matter what. Carol mentioned the CERT team. Outstanding. I love that we have an emergency response community team here. That's great. What good are they if they can't get out of their driveway? They're no good. Those are the things that need to be funded. Those things should be the #1 priority list. People say, well, things didn't pass the SGM last year for the huge dues increase. That's because everything was tied together. Nobody came to the people and said, hey, will you pay $30 extra a month if we fix all the roads out here? Because that's not the proposition. The proposition is, if you'll pay us $50 a month, we'll build a new building, we'll fix the pools, and we'll do everything else, and the road might get fixed. We're fixing 2 miles of road this year. We have 40. 2 miles of 40 miles of road are the priority out here. We've got an adult pool that has and hasn't been open after the remodel. We've got a free pool over here. We're collecting $30,000 a month, roughly, from the membership to maintain the parks, when I know the park in Gate 5's been mowed twice. 2 times someone went through it with a weed eater for $30,000 a month. The priorities need to shift. We need to take a deep, long look at how we're managing our personnel, how the maintenance manager runs things, how the golf course manager runs things. Keep the golf course. I love it. Again, I want a golf course, but I don't need it. Look at the needs, not the wants. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments?
I have a question, sir.
Just a second, we have a comment.
So in the last election, did you tie all of that together? Was that what the election was?
In fact, at the last AGM, we had 2 separate requests, one of which was specifically for roads. It did not pass.
Thank you.
Ann Mosnes, 34 Rocky Ridge Drive. Some of us who are really concerned about safety probably would be more inclined to vote for more things if we really trusted the money was going where we thought it was intended. So the lack of trust, kind of the meanness that sort of permeates a lot of discussions here, I think a lot of people feel fairly disenfranchised. And that wasn't really what I intended to say, but I will just say it now because we don't have to conduct business like this. I think on a national level, we see a lot of cruel behavior, and we don't need to replicate that here. I think a lot of people are concerned about the future. They're concerned about whether we're going to have more wars, whether we're going to be funding things, what kind of safety net there's going to ever be in place. My particular research has been on environmental issues. I have an article, which I brought several copies of. If anyone wants to learn more about...
Budget only, please.
Yes. The budget is the reason that I came up here, because if we don't have a safety net for the people who cannot afford these dues increases, then we're as heartless as probably any cruel nation in the world. And I don't think Sudden Valley needs to be that. So I gathered up some census material again. As of 2014, 6.3% of our population, 431 people, lived below the poverty line. Those are mostly women. They're oftentimes single mothers, and then the elderly. 2016, household income. 2.7% of our population lives with incomes less than $10,000 a year, and you're expecting 20% of that to go to dues? 10,000 to 15,000, 3.3% of our population. It doesn't matter if we consider these renters. Someone owns these houses, and they're modest homes. 3.1% have incomes between 15,000 and 25,000. Another 7.5% have incomes between 25,000 and 35,000. So if there's not a safety net of some sort, you'll be putting these people on the streets. Or they will be becoming stressed, even more stressed. They'll become ill. They're making decisions whether to buy medicines or pay dues. And then if they're fearing that they're going to have liens because they can't pay the dues, that kind of proposal without the a safety net. Without a deferral of this dues increase for those people who request it, you can take the money out when they do sell voluntarily, or the money could come from their estates when they die in their homes. But to drive people out because of this kind of a dues increase is heartless. You have to figure out some way of providing something for the low-income people here. You have to do it. Otherwise, what's your legacy? You built some buildings, you had some amenities, you'll be remembered as grave diggers because people are not going to survive this kind of a hit to their incomes, their assets, their wallets, their peace of mind. You absolutely can't do it. Whether the law allows it or not, it's heartless.
Just a bit of information, and we have in fact considered an option to create a safety net, and when we ran that by our outside counsel informed us that that would illegally create a separate class of dues payers, those who are getting some sort of a deferral.
Okay.
And since we're not allowed to do that, we're going to have to come up with a different way. So the way you just proposed, we have already been told we cannot do. So we'll
Okay.
have to come up with a different way.
Another idea. Since we have a considerable number of our population with high incomes, 75 to 100,000, 20.8%, 100,000 to 150,000, 21.8%. Some of us are putting money into a slush fund to repair our parks, particularly the park that's most dangerous that I live next to. So why don't we ask them, these high wage earners or these people with high household incomes, if they would like to donate to a slush fund and just have that administered by, say, the Opportunity Council or the Whatcom Community Foundation, and let these people draw on it so that we don't force them out, so that we don't have more empty houses here, so that the people can leave when they're ready to leave and they don't go on the streets.
Thank you. It's worth considering.
Thank you.
Excuse me, one correction real quick.
No, sir.
It's a correction.
No, sir.
On your part, it's a correction.
No, sir. If you would like to speak, come up here, give your name and your location when you're recognized.
My name is Rob Becerra. I live at Gate 3, 9 Inglewood Place, as I said before. I came from Bothell, and it is legal to have separate dues based. Let me finish.
I'm sorry, sir. That is incorrect, and you're debating a legal case that was decided years ago against.
I'm just telling you, in Bothell, we had.
That doesn't matter.
Yes, it does.
No,
As a
it
state of
doesn't,
Washington. It's a state of Washington.
It does not matter. We are a private HOA. The court looked specifically at Sudden Valley and said our controlling documents, our restrictive covenants, and our articles of corporation specify that there be only, at most, 2 levels of dues. Developed lots and undeveloped lots, because the services they get are different. Unless we can specifically identify services that are different, we cannot have a separate class of right there.
Okay, so when somebody buys a house here, like I bought one myself, it's based on price, you pay a certain fee, is that right?
But again, we're getting away from the fact budget only.
No, this is.
No, sir, it's not.
It's not
You're
budget.
actually bringing up a debatable point. This is not to do with our budget.
No, yes it does, but absolutely it does.
In what regard, if you're
Look,
talking?
it's collecting dues.
That's
No,
not
sir.
a budget.
It's not a dues item.
This is a part of the budget, isn't it?
No, it is not.
It's not.
It is not. We
Okay, so I have to wait.
estimate
All right.
what we might get, and we keep that estimate extremely low because it depends upon home sales.
Well, I'm just giving you a figure right, and this is depending on, I got this straight from your books. 2,600 residents pay $86.50 a piece. And Gail told me it's based on the property value, so there is a discrimination.
No, sir.
Yeah.
No, sir.
That's not
You're
correct.
confusing 2 separate things entirely.
No, what I'm saying, when you buy, not the dues, but when you buy a home, I had to pay $800 for mine.
Okay.
Where I live.
Capital transfer.
Yeah, okay, got the wrong wording, sorry. Capital transfer. So if you own a big house, a more expensive house, and you sell it for a higher price, you're gonna pay more of that, is that right? You're gonna pay it,
The purchaser will pay.
okay. It's no different than you, no, I think it's not that much difference than the dues. You can do the same thing with the dues.
Okay, thank you, sir.
And you can challenge that right away.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Are there any other homeowner comments? Yes, sir. Name and location.
My name is Joe Weistup. I'm at 9 Saffron Court. And forgive me, I'm first time attending. I didn't get all the facts fast enough. I'm really just worried about the increase of the dues to reflect our, our budget issues to make the area better. I am a local real estate agent. I can tell you from personal experience, I've had to have a lot more conversations with people regarding the increase of dues, the structure, and try to spend a little more effort convincing them why Sudden Valley is the place for them. With the new dues structure that is being presented, it is a large enough jump where I'm fairly confident it will be much harder to market Sudden Valley, which will give us a lot more empty spaces.
Sir, again, the dues increase has not even been discussed, let alone stated. We're looking
Yes,
at the...
it has. That's not true.
Yes.
And we need to let our community members talk. It's so rude that you interrupt them.
So, thank you very much. What I can tell you is that the Assistant Attorney General's office has already admitted discrepancies in the new law. They have also willingly admitted to the public that these issues cannot be corrected until January. So, if this correction happens, which it, from their office, point blank stated, it will be corrected, when this change goes into effect, if it is remedial, how is Sudden Valley planning to readjust the changes they're trying to make, and in the risk of class action lawsuits for specific performance, is it built into the budget for not receiving dues, but also having to pay back what has been over collected? And do you have a plan if and or when that happens? Because then our cash flow coming in to run this place not only stops, but it completely reverses. And how are we going to maintain this area when people are being forced to sell their homes because they cannot afford that increase, and the next increase on top of that, as well as be cutting checks, punitive or non-punitive? That would have to be decided in a court case. But typically, from after speaking with my lawyer, the typical class action lawsuits that do involve punitive damages are in the medium of 3 times the offense. Does Sudden Valley have that type of slush fund to not only have zero income, but also be cutting checks for over-collection as well as punitive damages? Legal case, history showing 3 times of what was collected. How is that going to be addressed?
Thank you, sir. We have legal counsel who advises us on what our rights and responsibilities are as a corporation, a nonprofit corporation in Washington State. You have made some statements that came supposedly from your counsel. I'm not going to dispute those. I would merely say that is that person's opinion. We are bound to consider gravely the opinion of our corporate counsel, and we have received no such advice.
Granted, my counsel has stated it would be a clear-cut case of suit for specific performance. In the real estate books, being that it's now been, appropriately brought to the attention that the, Assistant Attorney General's office has admitted that there will be an amendment, whether it's prospective or, reversed to retroactive for changes in the the amendment we'll make. It's on the real estate legal side, you're also looking at potential suits for intentional fraud. And just on a side note, anyone sitting here, if it were to go that bad, it's guilt by association, and you may not see yourself sitting there next term.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Alma Deckert, Gate 3, Sudden Valley Drive. Your potential board candidate. Take that with a grain of salt. I just want to mention one thing, and that is that in discussions that I've seen around the place, we have been told that, when you board here, you have to factor in inflation, and that is perfectly correct. But an increase of 46 to 88% is not inflation. If it is, then we would all be going out of here with cash in our wheelbarrows to buy loaves of bread in the Weimar Republic. This is not an inflationary increase. This is a huge jump, and it's going to hurt people in this valley, a lot of people in this valley, very badly. And I know that this is just a draft, and you're thinking about it, but think about it very hard. If you need to find a way to cut the budget so that it fits this valley better, then do that, rather than give an 88% increase to people who can't take it.
Thank you. Any further homeowner comments?
Barry McIntosh, 3 Whistling Swan Place. I'm just here to request that, as a board, you are sensitive to the fact that the increases that you're considering will be extremely detrimental to several of the residents of Sudden Valley and my neighbors and my friends. And I hope that you consider what the choices that you're making will do to families that live on a budget, and this will harm them. It is too much, too fast, and I think that a lot of changes could be made. I think that a restructuring would be a smarter choice and a more ethical choice, and overall would bring the community together rather than bring so much anger, which is all there is at this point. And I just think that as board members, you could really give it a shot to look at things differently and possibly work within the dues that we currently have, giving up certain things. I know that you say that things are that's just the way they are, that's the way they've always been. Things can change. And I just really would love if you looked at things and possibly made changes rather than increases. That's it.
Any further homeowner comment?
Did have one more question.
Okay. Again, just for the record.
Joe Weistup, 9 Saffron Court. If this were to go through, how is the money going to be spent in betterment? Obviously, how is this money going to be spent in betterment for the community? We all know it's not a secret that for a long time in the past we had a lot of facilities that were not maintained, and we've lost some, and it's unfortunate. I would like, I guess, convince me on why it's a good thing, because there are many things I love about this association and living out here. I'm originally from the East Coast. This reminds me of New England. It's the #1 reason I've spent 10 years living here and have always chose to live in Sudden Valley, regardless of the traffic in the mornings. What are we going to do to fix some of the issues we have? You know, one complaint that I hear a lot from clients who go to sell, when I say, why do you want to leave Sudden Valley? You know, and you have your people who just are angry at the world. They don't want to pay dues. They want everything, but they don't want to pay for it. That's unrealistic. But one comment that's always stuck out to me, which surprises me, it's been a common comment for years now, and no offense to the lovely gentleman in the back, but a lot of people seem to have problems with, a good example is the security. If there's problems in Sudden Valley, when we had our crime spree, a lot of people on social media were complaining over the fact that when you called security, either the phone was not answered, the phone was answered rudely, or the response was call the police, which the county time for response is about 15 to 20 minutes, depending on time of day and amount of sheriffs on duty. We know Bellingham PD, unless it's a gun-related violent thing, will not respond. And a lot of people have a problem with that. If this dues increase were to go in effect to change the budget, one thing that I guarantee a lot of people are going to want to know is, how is the security going to be changed? How is it going to be justified? Because people don't want to be paying more, 46 to 82% increase, when we're still having cars vandalized and, you know, trees spray painted and boats vandalized. If it's going to happen, we really need to know where this money's going to go to make it not stay the same, but be significantly better, to convince everyone, yes, this is hard on my wallet, but man, it made it better.
All I can say to that is that every item of every dollar in our budget is specifically allocated to a specific activity, and therefore, that is the answer to your question. In particular, with regard to security, I can tell you this. Down through the years, people have told me they don't want any security. Unfortunately, our restricted covenants require us to have an officer, a security officer, and a security patrol. The number of dollars it costs for an additional officer is, sir?
$66,000.
$66,000. So for every additional officer, that's a huge chunk of change. We used to have, during 1 year, 5 officers, 2 during the day in the morning shift, 2 in the afternoon shift, or you know, whatever they call that, evening shift, and then 1 at night with who carried a gun because he was the only person around. And we could not afford that. We had to go back to what we have now, which is 1, 1, and 1, and the evening guy is not armed, because that costs even more than the number we just said. So again, all I can say is every aspect of Sudden Valley's budget is specifically laid out by item. And so that's to tell you exactly where it will be spent.
Now, does the security budget go into detail as far as contract specifics with Pacific Security? Because I can tell you right now, they advertise $11.50 to $13 an hour. I make more than that, but I also know math, and I know that that type of hourly rate, being unarmed, does not equate to $66,000. So that probably should be reapproached with Pacific Security, because I know insurance is expensive for everything, but you're talking a quick figure $24,000 income to the security guard themselves based off of their advertisements for wages they pay. So we're paying $40,000 to them for insurance. Maybe a good way to, instead of increasing, is look into, and I see you shaking your head, so I'd love for you to chime in.
We're dealing through a company. The company will provide somebody to us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You cannot take a 40-hour salary and kind of put that in. And they also take responsibility damages and a lot of things. We are not paying an individual person that amount of money. We are talking to a company who is providing this for us for 24 hours, 7 days a week.
So nonetheless, you raise a point, which is that we're paying too much, and that's a valid point to raise for almost anything, and we will consider that.
Perhaps an internal security program would be better.
We had one when I first got involved in this community about 7 years ago, 6.5 years ago. We did have our own, and it was completely ineffective. Whatever your complaints are about Pacific, and I have heard some of those, and I have called and not been answered myself. So I understand that it is not a perfect system. It is far better than what we had 6.5 years ago.
Agreed, and if it were to move forward, I think that's probably the one thing that you would have to win over some of the hearts, because I don't think anyone would disagree with the statement that you can't put a price on safety and security, whether it's cars, boats, homes, families. So if it were to go through, a lot of people are going to want to see a real significant increase in feeling safe in this community.
I'm reminded by your discussion that during the holiday season, the Christmas holiday season, we do in fact increase our patrols to follow the delivery routes. And we have not had the kind of box theft off the front steps that other folks have experienced here in the Lake watershed area. So that was very effective, and we've done it for 2 years now, and that does cost us a significant extra amount. Mitch, do you happen to know off the top of your head? You may not, so I understand. What we paid extra for.
I don't have the cost for that.
Okay, that's fine.
I will agree that Glenhaven did get hit very hard both years. We had no thefts reported to us.
So we understand the concern, and we're trying within the budget that we have to do as best as we can.
And that's appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any further homework comments?
Jim Peterson, 5 Sunnyside Line. We want to talk about budget. I run a nonprofit. I'm the president of a nonprofit. We just had to cut our expenses. When's the last time this board has cut expenses? When's the last time this board has been physically responsible? When have they cut employees' benefits? I don't know anybody in this town, hardly at all, that gets 100% medical pay. Why can't we start cutting at the top? That's what we have to do as a nonprofit that I run. We cut at the top. We don't go and ask all our donors, give us more money so we can keep going and hire more staff. We start cutting at the top. It's the responsible thing to do. You've got people out here, like my wife, she's getting ready to retire in 2 years. On retirement, there's no way they can afford this. But it doesn't seem that you guys care. You don't give a hell. It's like, we want our golf course. We want a new building. We want. Spend. How about save? My wife and I are on a budget. We have to cut things out because we can't afford it. When have you guys ever cut anything out?
Every single year.
When? You just hired another staff person this year. I mean, come on. You can look at me and lie to my face. I don't care. But I'm going to tell you now, I will be knocking on everybody's door. And if you call security, I'm not worried. You know why? Because they won't show up anyway.
Thank you, sir.
One quick, I know you're getting tired of seeing, and I don't envy you your job. You're getting all this kind of heat. Rob Becerra, Gate 3.
Thank you, sir.
All due respect, there was an arrest made in my neighborhood on Gate 3. Somebody was stealing breaking into cars, and I did see a security car driving by, and they did catch him. So, you know, you got to kind of look at the whole thing. I'm not trying to dismiss what you're saying, but it's a huge place. You'd have to have a lot of police officers to you know, survey this place. It's huge. How many gates we have? I mean, how many gates you got?
Well, off the top of my head, I can't recall run through the numbers.
It's about-
The quick answer is
Yeah.
we have 7,000 residents here, which is almost the size of Burlington. It's the fourth largest
Okay.
community in the county.
Okay, so 7,000. That's, you need an actual police force to, not, you know, I'm not trying to, just, you know, make an issue out of it, but, you know, that's one thing my brother was a detective, so I know what they come across, and I had to say something. But one more thing I want to ask you is, I don't understand this. How did Sun Valley get stuck with maintaining the roads when, why didn't Bellingham, why can't you do something and get it to be incorporated with Bellingham?
It's a very good question that has been asked frequently down through the approximately 45 years of the community.
Yeah.
It was developed by a developer.
Mm-hmm.
It was outside the city limits of Bellingham. Bellingham cannot absorb Sun Valley because it is not physically, its perimeter is not physically connected to Bellingham's possible perimeter, what's called the UGA,
Right,
or urban
right.
growth area. It just isn't connected, and therefore state law doesn't allow it to do what you just suggested. And because this is a private development, the roads were simply not built pursuant to the standards that either the county and certainly that the city has to abide by.
So Sun Valley is basically a separate
It's a corporation.
corporation, separate city, whatever you want to call it, town?
It's a corporation and always
So
has been.
so our property taxes that we get assessed every year, where's that money going to?
You'll have to talk with your county council members about that.
County, wait a minute, is it?
But what they continually tell me is that they provide the sheriff's service and roads to Sun Valley, such as Lake Washington Boulevard and.
Just two Sun Valley.
I'm only telling you.
No, I'm
what
not.
They tell me.
I'm not disputing, I'm trying to get clarification here.
I have recently, within the last several weeks, had a long conversation with a county council member complaining that Sun Valley is double taxed already. And that did not go.
Well, what can we do to, maybe that'd be a good thing for you to look into, or I can assist you in any way I can. But what would it take? There's something's wrong here, man. I mean, they don't want to take the responsibility of maintaining the roads, yet they get, correct me if I'm wrong, they get a percentage of our housing taxes, right?
The county does.
The county does.
The city does not.
No, the county, but this includes this place, right?
That is correct.
Okay, that doesn't add up. It's not right.
I understand.
So maybe that could be challenged somehow. I know it's a
long shot.
It's a long shot, but
a bit of history. Sun Valley, decades ago, had an opportunity given to it by the county council to enter into a vote to turn into a city.
Yeah.
However, that was litigated by people who opposed the idea, and as a result of that litigation, the county council withdrew the ability of Sun Valley to vote to become a city. And I can only tell you that if we were to become a city, we would have far more responsibilities to pay for than what we're paying for now.
What bothers me is, to use the old phrase, taxation without representation. They're getting a chunk of this money, bottom line. They're getting a piece of the pie, and yet they're not going to maintain, at least maintain the main roads that go all the way through Sun Valley, and whatever else they should, like, you know, the trees on the side of the road, the gutters and all that.
I understand, sir, and the problem that we have is what they tell us. We are a private community, and therefore they have no ability, much less responsibility, to come in and maintain those, and they couldn't because the roads do not abide by the standards that they have. And if they were to come in, the first thing that we would be required to do is upgrade our roads, which would require massive construction to widen them, and possibly, because the slope is so bad in some areas, we would have to literally tear down some houses to make sure that the roads had enough swivel that they could get the elevation that is allowed by county requirements. So it's just not going to happen figure that we've been told is approximately $50 million to upgrade our roads to county standards. And this is quite a few years ago.
But that's even a more important reason to set the priorities in a proper perspective.
Yes, sir.
I mean, I'm serious about this. Like you said, I just moved in here, and I put a nice, decent down payment on this property, and $86.50, I can handle that. Golf course, no big deal. It's going to be okay. You know, just $86 a month. I can handle that. I can even handle 100 in here. But if whatever proposals you're going to put out there, whether it's 124, 180, it's all too much. Period. Because the priorities are not set right. And you can see it. I mean, I had a discussion with Jennifer, and we were going back and forth and said, you can't convince me that 2 swimming pools, and I see some people shaking their heads here, and 2 swimming pools justify $600,000 when you don't, fill it up with dirt and plant something on it, but it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. You know, my budget, I have a priority. Roof goes bad, the side goes bad. I got to decide which one I'm going to get fixed first with what the money I have. I don't go to the bank and borrow it. I got to deal with the budget. And I hope all of you really contemplate that.
Thank you, sir. Any further homeowner comments?
Libby Feller, 30 Lake Louise Drive. As a contrast.
Could you
sure.
speak a little closer to the
Okay,
microphone?
sure. So I moved here with my husband a little over a year ago. We looked around, really liked the area. We are on a fixed income. And my feeling when I looked around was, of course, they're going to pass a budget increase. It should have been done over the years so that we were not confronted with this large raise at this time. I appreciate what you guys do. I do believe you really do try to rob Peter to pay Paul to try to make the budget work. So things have been left undone over the years, and I believe that's the fault of the membership for not passing smaller budget increases along the way that would have taken care of the problems, instead of them getting so big that now we're faced with this increase. So like a lot of people, yes, we're on a fixed income, but this is a homeowners association with dues, and we knew that when we moved here that there would be increases. That's what a homeowners association does. When there are needs, the dues increase. So I just want you to know there is another side sitting out here, and I really appreciate the work that you guys do.
Thank you, ma'am. Any further homeowner comments?
Mary McIntosh, 3 Whistling Slaughter Place. I had a couple of questions. One of them came up with the question about security. And it's my understanding that there's a contract with the Postal Service to not deliver packages to our doorstep.
With the what?
The United States Postal Service?
There is no contract. There is no such contract. They just simply won't do it. That has nothing to do with our choice.
Okay, well, my guess is that's why there were no package thefts from the doorsteps. Probably not the increase in security. I do think that security is one of the things that could be looked at. I understand that it's in the bylaws or your whatever things, but I think that's one of the things that could change. And it is completely useless as is. Because they don't do anything and they can't do anything. From my understanding, I don't see any benefit from them at all. So it is being told to us by the Postal Service that there is a contract with Sudden Valley to not deliver to our doorsteps.
That is incorrect.
Okay. I also wanted to throw out there, I don't know what the process is for replacing Mitch since Mitch resigned, but is that going to be discussed?
I'm sorry, Mitch didn't resign. And by the way, we are talking about budget. We've already given an hour to homeowner comments on budget. So like.
Okay, well, just budget-wise, I'm thinking, budget-wise, I know that the increase on the budget was significant for his salary, or for the general manager's salary. I would like to throw out there that there are several residents that live here who have stated publicly that they would do the job for certainly what he is making now or less. And I think that that should be considered. I don't think that we need to up that salary where.
All applicants will be considered. We will take a professional approach and look for those people who have the requisite experience. The market value, the market price for those people was, when last looked at by Sudden Valley, about a year and a half ago, $150,000 to $160,000. We expect that that will have only increased when we start talking with the professionals.
That's not what I hear from the group that looked into what the salary would be.
I'm sorry, that is in fact the facts. Whatever you have heard, those are the facts.
Interesting. Okay. Well, that's certainly not from actual committee members who looked at that. That's not at all what's being said. So I don't understand why it's being budgeted.
You were on that committee.
Right, and I concur with what Larry mentioned, that somewhere in the neighborhood of 180, 185,000, as I recall, for comparable work.
Interesting. Okay. Well, other committee members have said differently. So.
And I was on both two committees. One was looking for a company as well as for an individual who would take that position. So I was involved in both of those committees.
Okay.
I concur. I was also on that committee.
I do think that the job could be done for half that, and I think that it's a consideration.
We did have a general manager when I first moved here who was doing the job for somewhere in the 80,000 range, and did a terrible job, and what had to be let go.
Okay. Well, possibly a professional management company would be the right choice.
We tried that immediately after that individual was gone, and that management company did a terrible job and expected to be paid a 30% profit on top of doing a terrible job. So we got rid of that management company. This is, given the quality of leadership that we have received, this is by far the most cost-effective method that we have ever been in, at least in the last 20 some odd years that I have researched. It may be that in the 70s there might have been a very good general manager. Unfortunately, he got sick, had to quit, and then passed away. He was well loved, but that was decades ago. So I can only say those facts.
Well, from my experience, I've always, my entire life, having lived in an HOA, never has there been an HOA that is anything like this one. And I would just say that a professional management company would certainly reduce a lot of this. If it had been professionally managed, I'm guessing the parks would be mowed, that the streets would be maintained, things would be on schedule, things would get done. And
I can only say that was not our experience the 2 years, or the year and a half, I should say, that we had a professional management company.
my guess is that possibly it wasn't the right management company. So I just suggest looking into that rather than paying almost $200,000 for one individual would be my suggestion. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Any further comments? Yeah, one more. We have got to get to the budget discussion where we actually look at the numbers that the Finance Committee has sent to the board and consider the two alternatives and possibly make changes. We don't know. I certainly can't predict. But we need to get that work done. So I think we're going to cut off.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm going to be really quick. Rich Hart, 19 Sweet Clover Circle, Gate 5. You got my wheels turning when we were sitting here because someone talked about taxes. And I don't know if any of you are aware of this, but the Tulalip Reservation just finished a lawsuit against Snohomish County because all of the casino property and all the shopping malls along I-5 are all on the Tulalip Reservation. Guess who built those roads? The Tulalip tribe. Guess who maintains those roads?
The tribe.
As private roads.
The tribe.
And where do all the taxes go from those businesses? To the county. How much maintenance do you think the county did on those roads for a percentage of those taxes?
Of course not. The problem, of course, is that that is a reservation.
Absolutely, I get it, sovereign nation and all that. But as a member, I would support exploring the legal options that we might have in potentially cutting a small percentage of the taxes that we pay to Whatcom County for roads based on the amount of roads that we're maintaining out here.
Well, I certainly appreciate that comment, and I will definitely take it up with our council to see if there's any possible way to do that. I seriously doubt it, however, or it probably would have been done decades ago.
You never know, never know.
You never know. Okay, now we need to get on with our budget and SERF discussions. We have 3 SERF requests before we get to the budget. Yeah, one of them is a UDR.
So if I could, sir, I'd like to have Jessica give her presentation for the UDR request.
Thank you.
Hello. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Jessica Bizette. I'm the association's ACC and Common Area Coordinator, and I will be presenting the request of UDR funds for the removal of hazard trees. To date, yep.
Could you direct everyone to the pages that you're looking at, just so we're all on the same place? I think it's starts on 14.
Thank you. I did not make the packet. So, okay. So as of yesterday, September 6th, the association has 25 hazard trees that are ranked above an 8. Currently, I have permits and permits from Whatcom County to remove 12 of them. My budget currently is $17,200. I've solicited 3 bids and only 2 were returned, the lowest of which was $23,452. So I am requesting an additional $8,597 from the UDR fund to pay for the removal of 12 hazard trees. This request will also include a 10% contingency.
Thank you, ma'am. I have a question for you, I think.
Is that a motion?
I have a question of her. My question is, why only 12 out of the 24, 25?
Because I don't get all of the hazard tree requests at once. They come in as received. And so once I have gone out and evaluated them, gotten back to the residents, there's a $35 application fee. So as they come in, I do the best I can to monitor the risk and manage the budget within reason. If I could go in and get a county permit for all of them and take them all at once, I would, but I'm only allowed $20,000 a year, which is why I'm coming to you and asking you for this amount, but we'll be coming down in the future as we are notified. I'll be coming back to the board to ask for additional funds to remove the other 13. It's just county permitting is required. It takes time.
Thank you. Okay, now let's have a motion and any board discussion.
I'd like to move that the board allocate $8,597 from the UDR fund to pay for the removal of the 12 trees, including taxes and contingency.
Second.
Quick question to the person who moved, and that is, has the Finance Committee looked at this?
The Finance Committee, this has not been brought to the Finance Committee, so there hasn't been no discussion with them.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I have a couple of questions for you. Can you tell us who the contractor is who will be doing the removal?
Ascending Tree Service.
Ascending, okay. Typically, when we do budget requests, we have the copies of the bids included in the paperwork. Oh, is it?
Yes.
Oh, I missed it.
Yeah, I included both of the bids that were provided. Again, I solicited 3 and only 2 were returned.
Oh,
What you'll see there. Yeah, so what you'll see, there are two different groupings if each contractor did them individually, and then if they did them grouped, and Ascending Tree Service was awarded the contract because they had the lowest bid.
I'm sorry, I wasn't familiar
It's
with
okay.
this form. Usually it's the bid itself that we have attached, but this will suffice.
Yes, I agree. I think this will suffice.
Okay.
As long as we have those documents on record.
Oh, yes, of course.
Very good. Yes.
Mr. President, David?
David.
Yeah, I guess I'm looking at page, it's where the hole is.
15, David.
Page
Yeah.
15.
One after 14.
And I guess when I was looking at it, I thought for various trees that, for example, right at the beginning, that Western Star was providing a cost that was significantly less than Ascendant Tree, and vice versa. As you go down, the green indicated the best price, and then the yellow was the best price for the other.
So,
I mean, I guess what came to mind is, couldn't you have Western Star cut down to certain trees and
so David,
the other trees and save a buck?
David, if I could interject into that. So we did actually look into that because Ascending Tree Service recommended it. And talking with Mitch, he's like, if both contractors can do that, great. If not, then we're going to go with the lowest bid. And I called Western Star Tree Service, and they're a great company, but they don't have the manpower to be able to come out here. They didn't have the time. So I did offer that to them, and we would have saved an extra $2,000, but they pulled, so they weren't able to do the job for us. So we did look at that. It just didn't work out.
Questions?
Mr. President, Sarah?
Sir.
A couple of questions. So really, we just had one bid then, because one never responded and Western pulled out. So we had to go with Ascending.
No, they didn't. So we were looking at, we hadn't awarded the bid yet. So I solicited the 3 bids. We got 2 closed bids back from, one from Ascending Tree Service and one from Western Star. And Ascending Tree Service said, hey, you know, we're busy. You know, if you look at it this way, how about, you know, we take the lowest, you go per tree, so then it kind of lightens the load on the contractors. And so we told him that we would contact the other contractor and see if they were willing to split the bid. And they weren't willing to split the bid because they couldn't come out here and do our job. They're too busy. And so we obtained the bids, and then they said that they couldn't. So we went with the lowest one. If they had had the lowest bid, we probably would have been looking at a longer time frame because they have less staff, so.
And what does individual and group mean under Ascending?
So individual and group, the reason why I put that there is because the 2 cost differences. So what if we did individually, okay, this contractor gets this 1 tree, even if there's 3 trees on that property, because that guy bid the lowest on that tree, he's getting it. So it's the difference you'll see between the individual tree, and sometimes if they get the whole property, that job, it's less. So you'll see the 2 different, that's what individual and group. So they're individual pricing for the individual trees, and then the group per job.
So why, I guess, this format doesn't make sense to me, because you're comparing Ascending with individual and group, but you're comparing Western Star on leaving the tree on site and taking it away, which you're not doing on Ascending Tree.
Because they didn't offer that. This is my own personal tracking. What we're wanting to pay attention to is the bottom part, where it says if Western Star Tree Service had gotten the bid, then it would have cost the association $30,000 and change, so $37.50. Okay, and then if they left everything on site, that means tree rounds, everything. If they left it on site, it would be $21,750. So even if they left everything on site, Ascending Tree Service is cheaper because they're doing all of that and they're taking it away.
And they're taking it away.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
That
They've got their own chipper.
From the table, that might have answered that question. Okay.
Never mind. Mr. President, David?
David?
I guess the timing is the issue. I was wondering if we're going to save quite a few $1,000s, what's the hurry? I mean, why
These-
can't it all be taken care of? It could be if Western Star says they can't do this right now, but they give you a better deal if you can wait a month.
Excuse me, Dave.
Whatever the case is.
David, what we're dealing with is hazard trees. So with the wind coming and storms coming, I don't think that it would be wise for the association when we have funds to do so and we have a moratorium that's coming. I don't think that it would be wise. I think it'd be considered negligent if we came back and said, oh, we just wanted to save a few bucks, so we waited. And knowing that this was a hazard tree, and if it falls on someone's house on my time, I don't want to have to answer to that. I think that when we get permits, we need to do the best we can to get these risks taken out and eliminated as soon as possible. I don't think that it's a matter of stretching it out. I think it's a matter of addressing it.
And would you clarify again, what I see is that Ascending Tree is charging us 21.5.
That's without tax.
Okay.
Yeah.
For a group and removal.
Yep.
Whereas Western Star for removal is 30.
Yes. Yes.
Which is significantly more. As well as slope.
Yes.
Providing you got the whole contract for all of those trees instead of.
Mr. President, Andrew, then Carol.
Andrew.
Thank you. So we have $17,200 remaining in our hazardous tree fund, which is the reason for the request for the $8,597. So one question is for, I suppose, our finance committee is, are we prepared to have roughly $23,000 taken from our UDR fund for the remaining 13 trees as soon as the permits do come through for those?
UDR is projected to have 181,000 at the end of the year.
So we can start taking that as
We have sufficient funds.
okay. And then the follow-up question would be for Mitch is or whoever, the 13 trees that we are not pursuing at this time, have they been marked and the appropriate parties been informed that they are in fact hazardous for the safety of the
Yes. So when we're notified of hazard trees, residents will turn in a hazard tree removal request, and I go out and do an evaluation on it based on the USDA Forest Service, their TATEM guide. And then once we've identified the tree, rated it, the resident gets a letter that lets them know what the hazard rating of the tree is. They're also notified if they disagree with what was rated, that they are welcome to hire an arborist. Also, they're notified, so they are notified that we identified it as a hazard tree. I also, when I apply for county permits for these individual trees, I let each homeowner know that's applied. When we send the job to bid, I let them know. When we've awarded the contract, I let them know. When the job starts, when it finishes, they're in on it the entire time. If anything ever happens to where we've rated a hazard tree and it becomes an imminent hazard, then they're instructed to call us because that's an imminent hazard that doesn't require Whatcom County permitting. So then the association provides the funds to get the tree taken out so we don't run into trouble. So.
Mr. President, Carol.
Carol.
John. Mr. President, David.
Yeah, I guess I'm still confused on this business about individual group. Like, for example, the last item, Douglas Fir, $27.75 individual, and what is $57.75? I mean,
That's for that whole property. So that would be for trees 1, 2, and 3. So 800, 2,800, and the 27.75.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So the group pricing for that property.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That's it, sir.
Is that it? Question has been called. Is there any objection? Hearing no objection, all of those in favor of this UDR request, please indicate. Okay, that looks unanimous, so that passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. That was well described.
Someone else going to speak about that?
Mr. President, the next one is a quiet pool skimmer replacement ratification. Page 4.
So does that mean a quiet skimmer or a skimmer for quiet pools?
Either way you would like to read that, sir.
Thank you.
Or you could say,
Very slowly, yes.
we're requesting capital funding to replace the pool skimmer. This was voted on by the executives. We had a timing issue, and I believe the notes have been submitted to admin for the executive meeting also.
Okay, the executive meeting minutes essentially that approved.
That's correct.
Okay. All right.
The mechanical skimmer that cleans the water surface from the pool, this is the stuff that floats along the top, goes off into a channel, and the skimmer pulls it and cleans it out. Right after the pool was finished, the skimmer failed. We had anticipated being able to get through the year with the mechanical system in a small pool. We didn't make it. The adult center pool equipment building is scheduled for replacement next year, and it will include all the pool mechanical equipment. The skimmer would have been part of that repair had it not failed this year. It has been replaced. It will not require replacement along the balance of the other equipment next year. It will simply be, the pump will just be disconnected and reinstalled when the shed is replaced.
A quick clarification. That means in essence that we're spending this year what we would have spent next year.
That is absolutely correct.
Okay.
Work included pressure testing the line for leaks. We wanted to make sure we had all the problems identified. Removal and replacement of the skimmer. We had to saw cut a section of brand new concrete, replace a section of the new line, and bonding the skimmer lift to the pool surface. The project is coming in lower than it had been estimated, which is good. You have copies of the estimate from the contractor that's working at the pool. You have a copy from Lieber Pool on page 7, and then a breakout on page 6 of the contractor, direct labor costs, material costs, construction, subcontractor with tax. That's $38.65, and then there's some design costs. So the project is actually coming in lower. We requested $6,600, including tax, design, and contingency from the CERT Capital Fund to purchase and install a new skimmer.
Do we have a motion?
I move that the board approve $6,600, including tax, design, and contingency from the CERT Capital Fund for purchase and installation of the new pool skimmer for the quiet pool.
Okay, actually, I'll say, since the executive committee already approved this, actually what the motion should be, would be a motion to ratify the executive committee action. Okay, very good. So that's the motion then? Thank you.
That should be the motion.
Okay, very good. We need a second for that motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? I see two hands. Linda, you were first.
I guess I just have a question. When this, I thought, and perhaps I misunderstood, when we were looking at this quiet pool skimmer, Mitch had indicated to us that there was money left over in the contingency for the project that he thought would cover it, and it looks like now we're taking this as a brand new amount out of SURF. I just would like that clarified, please.
New scope.
Then why did we discuss taking it out of the contingency? That's all.
We have discussed taking it out of contingency. We're going to do a review on the loan projects in a few minutes. We'll show you. I mean, I think on the pool project, we're negative 28, less than $3,000. We're negative on it.
All right.
So we don't have it. And it is new scope, which
I know that.
They've always said if it's new scope, you add money.
So to clarify that response, we don't have any contingencies left, and it is new scope.
Yes and yes.
Mr. President, sir.
Sarah?
What was the time constraint that required the executive committee to approve this?
My understanding is that we needed to get the pool back in order.
The contractor was demobilizing from the site. It would cost more to bring the contractor back to the site. Once you demobilize, you pay to bring them back. They were still here, they still had the tools to saw cut, they still had the capability to do the work. If they left, I'd have to bring them back, it costs more, and we wanted the pool open.
Was there any attempt made to contact the full board to get 48 hours notice to have a board meeting on this?
No.
Mr. President, that's all.
Okay. Question has been called. Is there any objection? Hearing no objection, all in favor, please indicate. That's all but two. All opposed? That is two. The motion does pass. So this is ratified by the Board of Directors.
Next one, sir.
Thank you.
Clubhouse HVAC,
Lord.
page 1013.
Yes. You can tell by my sigh, I know this.
I will just repeat the same thing that I have said repeatedly for several years. We're touching it, it breaks.
Because it's old.
It's all old. We're driving a 1972 Chrysler K-car. We're requesting SERF funding to replace a significant amount of clubhouse HVAC components. The components are comprised of 2 chillers, a 20-ton and a 30-ton, 2 air conditioning handlers and economizer, multiple electric duct heaters, and ducting and controls scattered throughout the entire building. As I mentioned, our 1970s Chrysler is old. It's been repaired multiple times. It's undergone several upgrades, including disconnecting the boiler, which is still there, and installing electric duct heaters. By industry standards, it is an ancient system. We attempted a $6,300 repair, which is not in this, a month and a half ago, and it lasted 2 weeks. The recent July attempt to repair the second floor, which is the 30-ton compressor. We got 2 weeks of service before a complete system failure. And Sarah, you had asked me at that meeting, do I guarantee the repair? And my answer to you at that time was no, I would not guarantee the repair. And so I stand correct. That repair did not last. It was a good attempt. Since then, we've been operating the entire clubhouse with the economizer and manual bypass. Both air handlers are running, and the 120-ton compressor is providing the cooling, which is now carrying 350% of its design load. Contacted 3 contractors. These are all very big local companies, very successful companies, Smith, and then separately Feller, and then Barron. All 3 of those contractors toured the building and evaluated the entire system. And we were asked them to tell us what would it take to enable them to provide a sound bid proposal to repair or replace the system. And of the 3, only Barron provided a bid. The others actually declined. The attached bid proposes to replace the 30-ton compressor, replace 1 air handler, rebuild both economizers, remove the defunct boiler, which is occupying a good portion of floor space in that room, remove and install new controls, clean the local ducting, and balance the system. Although the bid does not show that it would balance the system, I have talked to the company and said there's no value in us purchasing this if you will not balance the system. They saw the wisdom in that. It does not include electrical work, which will be required. Once complete, the new system is configured to support the clubhouse in any further configuration. It is a typical cold deck, hot deck. There's something makes cold gas. It goes through air handlers. Air blows past it. It splits it off through ducts and goes throughout the building wherever the ducts tell it to go. If we rebuild that building and change the wall configurations in the future, which I am sure that we're going to, then we will just simply change the ducting configuration. The same air conditioning system will support it. They have come back and proposed that we put cool deck units wall mounted throughout the entire building to save a lot of money. I think this is short-sighted. It's much less expensive. It won't last as long. They're noisy, and they don't perform very well. Some people have them in their house downstairs, up on a wall. There you go.
All right.
And you have it up on a wall, and it makes a lot of nice racket, it recirculates air. We have a lot of places in that building, you don't want to recirculate the air, you want fresh air. And,
Accounting.
right, there is a Mexican restaurant in this place, all right? So a fresh air system, I think, is what is required in the clubhouse. Not only that, but we have people that work in the building full-time, and they are required by law to have a certain amount of fresh air changes per hour. And so those single deck, Sanyo heat pump type systems won't work. So once complete, this system will support it. Now, I have a copy of Baron's proposal. For those of you who have been on this hayride with me, it started off originally at $148,000, and then it went down to $75,000. And I had them keep polishing their pencil, and the more that it broke, and the more that we kept evaluating the system, and came to a very clear term of scope. They've now come in at $95,301.30. You can see what the specific elements of the scope are. It excludes unanticipated requirements by code. While I was at the county this week several times, I made some inquiries. We're not going to get a code issue.
We're not going to get
We're not going to get a code issue. We're not rebuilding the building. We're not going to be hit for fire smoke dampers. I did tell them I need them to air balance the building. It does not include electrical work, and until we look at and get the specs for the new equipment coming in, I won't know if we have to change the electrical switches or go to a different load center. And it doesn't include final paint and touch-up, which is fine because we're not painting any of the systems anyways. So they're requiring 50% down. This is a 12-week long-term lead item. So they would be actually working on this system probably in December, possibly even in January. So we'd be paying 50% down and the balance when complete, which would probably be next fiscal year. I am requesting $118,741 allocation from SERF to fund and pay for the attached scope of work. It includes 10% contingency, tax, and $5,000 for what we think is an anticipated electrical work, assuming we get an electrician, because they are right now made out of gold. Meaning they're very difficult to locate. And if anyone out there is an electrician and looking for work, we have some.
Yes, ma'am.
Just wanted to mention that the request is good on the front page. There's a portion on the second page that is part of our standard format, and we did not actually visit this discussion formally at the Finance Committee. We did have...
Formally or informally? Was it informally visited?
Not the specifics of this. We knew that there were problems coming. I mean, we had talked about the $6,600 issue, and we knew there was more coming, but the Finance Committee never voted on this, so just to let you know that that portion is not something that the Finance Committee approved. This is new information that has come to us just as we've just been working on it for quite some time.
So, staff input from Jen.
Okay, so the motion has been made. Who seconded it?
Oh, I shall move. I'll make it. It hasn't been made yet, but I shall make it. Request $118,741 from SERF to pay the attached scope of work, which is, as he described earlier, and including 10% contingency tax and $5,000 for possible electrical work.
Okay, second.
Now, Jen.
If I recall correctly, there was $80,000 included in the 2018 SERF spending plan for the replacement of the HVAC system in the clubhouse, and that was based on what our reserve consultants estimated. So it is coming in higher than what they estimated, which is not uncommon.
And that list of work was approved by the Finance Committee.
Yes, from that standpoint, we approved the SERF list. Obviously, though, this is going to be the case, I believe, for most of our SERF projects. Certainly has been our history in this last year or so. Everything is increasing in price for whatever reasons, labor, materials, all of it. So it's going to be higher in most cases than our reserve study shows.
Mr. President, Linda?
Yes, ma'am.
A couple of questions. I wondered what Barron's warranty is on the labor on this project and also on whatever unit that they install. I see that there's several options here, but not one is specified. It just says best fit as fits the application, and I didn't know if you'd looked at that for warranties and stuff regarding this since it is so expensive.
Linda, you've asked a good question. I don't have that answer. Of course, whatever equipment we put in, we bring in, goes into the maintenance plan. So I don't have that answer at this time. It's a good question, of course, and we'll be asking for the warranty that comes with it.
Yeah, because I see there isn't one, you know, and like I say, there's so many units. I just wondered if they had given you anything verbal, and especially on their labor, and I was surprised not to see it in their contract.
Mr. President, David?
Hey, just for documentation purposes, do we need something in here that deals with, I mean, since this is one bid in our documentation for the things that you had mentioned, do we need some sort of documentation why that's a single bid item?
Well, as I wrote into the plan document that we solicited to 3, and as I was soliciting them, just because I was concerned about this, I copied the treasurer and the co-chair of finance on every one of those solicitations and let them watch what we were doing as we were going through those solicitations. And I do have the email from the companies declining.
Thank you.
Mr. President, Sarah?
Sarah?
I have several questions. Do we have any idea why the other 2 declined it? Did they say, or they just said no?
One company just said, thank you, no. The second company said that we had a single pipe system. They were not familiar with the configuration. It was going to take them a long time to put together the plan. They didn't want to spend the engineering time to assemble that plan, and therefore they didn't want to bid.
Okay, was there any attempt to get any other besides these 3 since only 1 came back?
No.
Okay, so there was 80,000 budgeted this year in SURF, and that was one of the ones we're gonna move forward this year in SURF? Okay. And then, the 5,000 in electrical work, so we're approving this now, so it's not gonna be bid?
What does that mean, Sarah?
We're not gonna get bids on the electrical work?
We would not get a bid in electrical work either way. We would have the contract, the prime contractor bring in an electrician and tell us what the charge would be. We would not bid it out. There's a prime contractor on this. Let that contractor take the risk and let them bring in the subcontractor.
So that should be in their bid. It should be all
No, it should not.
bid.
No, it should not. That would be against contract law. The prime contractor is in control of their contract site. Once the prime contractor takes over that area, all work in that area is the responsibility of the prime subcontractor. If we attempt to put other contractors in there, they have the right to walk off the job.
So if they're hiring that subcontractor, we're not, is that what you're saying? This, like Barron, for instance, would hire this subcontractor,
That's correct.
but so we don't get to pick them, but we have to pay based on whoever, so they could go out and get the worst, highest, most unqualified person, we would just have to pay it?
And they would be accountable as the prime contractor for the performance of that subcontractor's work, including having to pay all costs if they fail. So the prime contractor gets profit, but they get risk. So for the profit that you get, you have to work to go get your subs, and you have to guarantee the performance of your subs. And at $5,000, there's no performance bond, there's warranty on the work, which is what Linda was asking me. What's the warranty going to be on the work? So I'm not going to ask for a warranty on the air handler or a warranty on just the economizer or on the chiller. I'm going to ask for a warranty on the entire project's performance. It has to work as a system. And so you hire an electrician. You hire what you just said, the lowest quality, unqualified, poor performer in Dodge. It's on Barron if this thing doesn't work.
So I guess I don't understand how we're ready to vote on this so all these options are going to be all the same price, like this is their all-encompassing bid to do the work even though they don't know which one they're going to pick, and then we don't know if we're gonna have a warranty on it, yet we're approving it now? I mean, what if they come back and say we won't warranty the work and we've approved this?
So that's, I have to say that you're not serious, right? Are you serious? You think that this isn't going to come with a warranty? Because we can't say what the actual specific warranty is that comes with the equipment?
I think it's out of order for us to approve it before we know all the pieces of information.
I don't think that you need to know that piece of information candidly. I'll be honest with you. So we're going to purchase equipment. It has to come with a warranty. It has to be maintainable. And we're not dealing with Joe's weed fix-it shop. We're dealing with maybe one of the largest contractors in Whatcom County and in Washington State for HVAC. So I don't believe that we're dealing with a fly-by-night organization that's not going to do business according to standard contract law.
Done? Mr. President, Andrew?
Andrew.
Thank you. My questions have already been answered.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Mr. President, Eric?
I understand that air balancing has been requested. Do we have any idea what the price tag on the air balancing is going to be?
As I mentioned, I went to him and said, I expect air balancing to be included. If you put the system in, it can't
operate.
Right, that's an interesting comment. They put in here.
Says that it's not included.
Yeah, so they put in here that the, here, last bullet, start, set up, and test the new equipment for proper function. And I said, how are you going to guarantee proper function if you don't balance the system to know that I'm getting heat load that's going past the air diffuser that's got a heater on it? You're going to have to give it to us, and they agreed. I'll be happy to go ahead and provide
addendum to this contract.
I'll be happy to provide an addendum.
Okay.
It's included in the price. You can't do one without doing the other. Does that make sense, Eric?
It does, but I would think that electrical work would also be necessary to do the project.
Well, it is, it's just excluded specifically because at this time, until they deliver the actual specific components, they themselves will not know what electrical systems that they will need. Not until they know exactly, are you going to get a single phase, two phase, are you going to get a 277, are you going to get a 120, what are you going to get, what are you going to need? And until they select their equipment and bring it in, they're not going to know, and I wouldn't expect them to know because they haven't done 100% design. That was one of the reasons one of the other contractors begged out. I don't want to do a complete design and then go out and speculate what it's going to take for me to do it. It's a lot of work, and I don't know if I'm going to get the bid. Please, it's taking too long. Go ahead and do it without me. And that is not uncommon in today's marketplace with contractors. In fact, it's becoming more and more common. They are so busy, if it's going to take too much time, they're passing up work.
One comment that I'd like to make about this request is that typically I've seen Sudden Valley pushing equipment to the point of failure before replacing it, and that would seem to be where we're at with this, and so that's consistent. And we had this on the SURF plan for this year, but for less money, and so we thought we were going to get out of it, but then we thought a few weeks ago that we could repair it and dodge that bullet, and that turned out to not be well, it got El Agave some cool air during the hottest part of the season. That lasted a couple of weeks, and then it failed for good. And so I'm speaking in support of this simply because it has failed. And that's what we've always said we were going to do, is fix it if it fails. And I hope someday that we can fix things before they fail.
For Eric, you and Larry have both been in the mechanical room downstairs. I don't think I've taken anyone else down there. You get this joy here shortly, Andrew. Currently in the mechanical room, I have ducting open from the downstairs air supply that's pressurizing the entire mechanical room going into the economizer opening for the upstairs, and it's getting the cool air sucked right back in. So we're stealing air from downstairs to cool upstairs with a very small compressor. And it is running at 350%. So if we lose it's a good thing we're going into the cooling season, but it's getting harder and harder to order equipment, and it's taking longer and longer to get the equipment. So it is unwise to defer, to Eric's point, and to repair when you can. I believe that the work that we're specifying, including taking out that boiler, which requires us removing a bunch of doors to get it out of there, will prepare that room for the eventuality of having to replace the other air handler that's in there and be ready to power up the other compressor that's outside.
Mr. President, Carol.
I just want to make a couple of comments about Director Holmstrom's concerns regarding the electrical. And I think you responded to one of them in that they don't know what it's going to cost us until they get in and see what is going to be needed. So that's typical right now, especially for a small portion of the job, which $5,000 is. I hope it's not going to be more, but it could be because they just don't know what they're facing. The other thing is that it's just like anything we have done. If you have one person do part of it and another person do the other part of it, if it fails in any way, they're going to be blaming each other. This is one contractor who's doing the whole job, who can give us a warranty, and if it fails, we go one place, we don't have to argue about it. And that's the whole reason why you have a prime contractor do the work to get the individual contractors to do the smaller portions of the job that they can't do themselves.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. President, David.
Yeah, just a minor thing, does even the 5,000 for anticipated electrical work even have to be in there? Isn't that just part of what the scope of the project generally? I mean, anything that they do, there's something that's already anticipated, right?
I agree, David. Because they excluded, as Director Trower pointed out, there's work that's excluded. We will have to do the electrical work. We will not have to do, we see no code upgrade, we see no fire damper work. The air balance, I'll get this upgraded so it's incorporated, but we will have to do electrical work, and we're not doing final payment. So since this work was not included by Marina, I wanted to be very clear, we have to include some costs for it.
Thank you.
Mr. President, Linda.
I had a question for you, Mitch. You had spoke about when we have the old unit that we were using, and Freon or a coolant that was used for that was rather pricey and unique. Is that going to be able to be used, pumped out and used,
or? We're not going to use that same gas. We're going to go to a different gas. We're going to pump this gas out and sell it.
That was my question. Thank you.
There's many pounds of that gas in there that is liquid gold, and we will pump it out and sell it.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. President.
Thank you. One of the issues that has been discussed or at least touched on is why are we doing this now? And would you speak to how long we're going to have to wait to get the equipment?
I believe it's discussed in here. It's a 12-week order, minimum 12-week period of time to order this material. So even if we initiate now, and we sign this, and they're expecting a call, we initiate it. So,
and if we
October, September to October, November to December, and then install. So if everything comes in perfect, we're ripping out doors and we're ripping out that area in the dead of winter when it's quietest around here, and then we're installing.
And if we delayed?
You delay, then you might go into the next season where all the other major corporations are having a new fiscal year, and then they're initiating their capital projects, and we're competing with them, getting in line, getting in the queue to get the hands. We are a very small bug on this train.
And then the other question is, you have mentioned several times the need to remove doors. My understanding, based on looking at the equipment down in that room, they are essentially going to have to chop that equipment up and move it through the doorways. Is that correct?
There will be a tremendous tremendous amount of sawzall activity cutting the boiler up in place because you cannot get it out of that room intact. Going to be some very intense physical labor.
Thank you.
That's it, sir.
Question's been called. Is there any objection? Seeing no objection, all in favor of this, please indicate. All right, all opposed? And sir, are you abstaining? Odell abstaining. Okay, so this is approved. Okay. Wow. Do we need to look at the new business, fines, fees, and record credit card tonight, given that it is already 9 and we haven't even started the budget?
We'll wait.
Okay, so we can do that next one, perhaps. Is that correct? I mean, if we can't wait, that's fine. I understand, but we're late now.
We'll wait.
We'll wait. Okay, so those are postponed.
Is that both of them, sir?
Yes, sir. They are both set items 7A and B are tabled until the next work meeting.
13.
Yeah, which will be only a week from now. Okey-dokey.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
there was a section, the SURF project update on page 2 and 3 is Mitch, we skipped over that. And I believe Mitch,
Do me a favor, pass on that, Linda. We have information. You pass on it. It's old information.
It's old information, and I believe this will be part of the budget discussion.
okay.
Superseded.
Yeah, why don't we do that? It's about 6 minutes until 10. Oh my God. Or 9, sorry. Yeah, 6 minutes until 9, so we'll have a
6-minute break.
9.
Oh. Oh. Walk it off, walk it off.
I don't understand how we allow people to stand.
We're down to
We're going to project this one.
Okay, if I fall
the
asleep,
budget.
if I fall asleep.
All right, okay.
Just so you know.
We're mostly all back at the table, and so now we're going to take a look at the budget. Leslie suggested that we have some goals. I think that's a great idea. The major goal, as I see it, is for board members to take a look at the numbers that the Finance Committee has passed to us, ask questions. We've had the material for, well, at least since the last meeting, and now it's time to ask questions. The first ones that come to my mind are, why do we have two options? What's the purpose of the second option? How was the first option determined? What is all included in that, et cetera, et cetera. Just ask questions, because essentially we got 1 week to make a decision. So if there's any other suggestions for a purpose to this evening, let me know. Carol.
Jennifer and Mitch have been working on some additional information that I think we all need to have as background. I'd like to have Jennifer go through each piece of that before we start that discussion, if you could, please. Because I think it'll just inform us better as to some of our decisions.
Okay, so I mean, basically, this presentation is between you as treasurer and Jennifer as the accounting guru.
Yes,
So,
she's more than that, but yes, the accounting manager.
I mean, she's the guru, whatever.
The guru who knows all about it.
You know the numbers, and you know what the Finance Committee has already discussed.
And we do have one member of the Finance Committee here. All were invited, but I'm telling you that there was a lot of, their night of the week is Wednesdays. And it was really hard for everybody else to get here, one of which was very ill. So we wish him speedy recovery, and I think that Paul is up to representing the opinion of the Finance Committee, because in most cases,
Speaking of speedy recovery, everybody make sure you get your flu shots this year, because that's what you got already.
Ooh, what?
Flu.
Oh, wow.
We're going to suggest that you just turn around and we're going to work on the screen.
Okay, for official purposes, make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we go into an informal meeting process, not a meeting whole so much as an informal process where we can have multiple questions, each of us. And since we're going to be doing no voting during this, it would be appropriate for us to be able to include the Finance Committee members as well in this session.
Okay, we need a second.
Second.
Oh, will you second it?
Yes.
Okay, so Mike seconded, and so all in favor? Okay, all right, now, for that purpose, Mike, please do your best to keep track of who has a question. Although this is informal, the major result of that informality, the major result is that you can speak. You don't have to ask for permission, but please, everybody, raise your hand, and Mike will keep track of who is next, so that we can keep some track of what's going on.
I'd like to make a suggestion that.
Yes, sir.
Whomever is speaking regards what's on the screen, probably what page we're on in.
This is not in your book. What you're looking at here from a project manager's point of view is what's called the total project cost sheet. So we're going to just give you a briefing on what we call the loan projects. These are the loan projects that we funded last year. The first one was awarded to Tiger Construction. It was for the pool repairs. The original amount was $495,720. And Washington State sales tax, $537,878.
I'm sorry, Mitch, you did another thing. You said 720. It looks like 7
Right here, 495, 740? Okay, 25. With Washington sales tax, so total project cost anticipated at the beginning on award was 537,870, I think 617. Jennifer, I'm just going to try to keep up. Oh, okay. Since we started the project, and the project now is going into closeout, these are all change order proposals, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which we have approved. And they were for underground piping, demolishing light bulbs, electrical conduit work, a ramp trench drain, which is a big hidden repair, and the gutter repair, handrail modifications, the pool fence, which the board approved, adult pool skimmer, which is approved. And then we have two items that are still open, which we're debating on. And so at this time, with direct permitting cost and Wilson's design, right now this project a little further down shows that we are, I need to see, there we are. This project right now at the amount, we're now at $2,900 and is it $48?
68.
That we are, okay. So as we're going into closeout, we are now upside down that amount. So of the 640, that's what we're upside down on this project. And it's going through closeout now. So, Linda.
The skimmer on there looks like, you have to go up more, but it looks like the skimmer was only like $1,000.
Yeah,
Am I reading
it was,
the wrong line?
this was their cost, but then we had extra costs from Wilson that we anticipated for the skimmer. That was the extra cost.
All right.
Yeah, the 6,600 that was approved is incorporated in there.
It is.
Yeah, it's just not broken out that way. Good catch. Change order 9, change order 10, we're pushing back on the additional stair. The county inspector said he wanted an additional handrail that was not called out. For those of you who have been to the pool, when you come out of the restrooms, there's not a handrail to the left, to the right. There is one to the left. They're asking for another one to the right. And so we're pushing back on that. And a vacuum port repair, we're actually pushing back on the contractor saying that should be in the punch list. You shouldn't charge us. So we're not showing costs here until we come to an agreement. So that's where we're at right now. On Area Z, I put it on hold today. I put it on hold today because we are running into many problems on Area Z. This is the Western Refinery WRS project, Area Z storage. Originally started out at Barn 6. We have the original cost up here at 192, and work that we have taken off, asbestos and lead. And at this time, we are finding out many things. Let's see, where are we at today? Today, we found out in the last 2 weeks that the water line for the Lake Whatcom Water and Sewer District is 12.5 feet down. Normally, it's 3.5 to 4 feet down, and anything below 10 feet requires an engineered excavation plan and shoring plan, which in itself is like $25,000. We have discovered more things that are not right. The butterfly valves have never been operated. We would have to turn off and turn on 5 valves, I think, to make sure that if we open up that line, if those valves don't work, we will have new scope. We'll have to secure the lines. We'll have to dig down. We'll have to do emergency shoring and excavation. We're going to put this job off till June 1. We see this as too risky. We got our permit today. It was released by the county. And we feel that there's too many things that are open-ended on this project to proceed. It's too risky with only having until September 30th to perform. So we are going to stop, and I want a better, slower design with less overtime so we have a very clear idea of what this project is actually going to cost. What we do know is that we added $200,000 of work to the job to put in a fire hydrant, and which in itself is $126,000 before the 10-foot dig and the extra shoring. And so that price goes up because of that. And we also know that we have the fire hydrant has to go in, the design cost to get it there. The design is mostly sunk. We're going to hold off on doing the work because I do not believe that we know this job well enough. It's too risky, as I said. Let me go to the next one.
You also might say that we talked today about this, the permit is good for a year and can be extended.
Good things about permits. This is the first time this is going to go in our favor. We have the permit in our hand. If the environmental regulations change, the permit is not affected. They will not give us new scope. The permit is now signed. And so our permit will be good at no cost for an extension.
So does this mean that all the questions that you have been, or that all the things that they've been throwing at us, like the fire hydrant, they said we had to have, and all these other things that they're saying and required of us, we now know all of what that might mean? Or is there a possibility that more will?
They cannot come back at this point. They've signed off. This is the thing about regulators. Why is a regulator not interested possibly in giving you permission to go forward and do something? Because once they give you permission, they've signed off on it. And they have now signed off, and they are now committed. So we're in this now together. Gel with you? Gel with you?
The question that I have is very simply regarding the water district pipe, which is necessary in order to feed the fire hydrant. That's 12 feet down at least. Are we going to be doing any work to exploratory work this year, or are we putting off exploratory work until next year?
So I've directed Wilson to only work on approved tasks right now. The one task I've given them, issue a work order to WRS to pothole and verify where the Lake Whatcom Water and Sewer District's water supply lines are, how far down they are, what type of pipe they are, their diameter, and the material, and if they are in the water table. Because if they're in the water table, then I have to do a dewatering plan to put people 13, 14 feet down to do the work.
Okay, so that work, essentially the answer is yes, it's going to be done this year.
We're going to do that, and they purchased about $44,000. No, they haven't purchased. They've locked in $44,000 of piping that they have a hold on. And I've said, let's purchase the piping. They've agreed to store for the entire winter at no cost to us. Piping materials are skyrocketing by the month, buy the pipe now. So we know what pipe we need from the hydrant out 400 feet to where the road is. I don't know the fittings to connect from that pipe to the type of pipe they have. And we won't know that type of pipe till we pothole and send a camera down and inspect it. So we're doing that now. Linda.
Do you know, so we have a price from WRS. Is there going to be any escalation from them to put it off until June? You know, how's that going to affect us by waiting that time?
Our contract signed last November was fixed price plus cost increase materials.
And they're willing?
They have a signed contract that they're holding to. Fixed price labor, cost plus materials.
I just wondered if there was...
They have to eat the cost increase unless they come up with a justification. For example, if there is we're not paying prevailing wage, but they could negotiate us up if they have to give a wage increase saying that it's cost plus materials, cost plus wage increase. All right, but fixed price on, yes. So right now, what we know about this job is that there's $264,000 in costs in there that did not start. $200,000 of it is clearly all the hydrant. Without the hydrant, Sudden Valley does not get to doesn't get Area Z. There is no infrastructure in Area Z. Without infrastructure, it's more than a fire, it is a fire department issue. The fire department will not let you build or expand in Area Z. So there is no infrastructure. This is also utilities that are coming in from the road out the opposite way. So we're increasing the entire infrastructure to all of Area Z. And that took up our contingency. So we've stopped that job. So some of this are sunk and some of it's not. Let's go to the next part, Carmen's. Here's our Marina dry pipes. It's active. It's working. This is how much it was bid for. And at this time right now, change order 1 was gangway material increase. And change order 2, we are anticipating another estimated material increase. Right now, that project, which is 2 weeks away from being finished, is estimated at $42.80 over.
Mr. President Carroll.
I just wanted to go back to Area Z.
Yes, ma'am.
The idea of I know you're going to talk about this a little bit more, but we can't place the structure until such time as all this work we're talking about is done. So what is going on with our purchase?
So we have 2 options. We purchased a tent for $114,000. David, are you okay? He's okay. We purchased the tent. So the company that we purchased the tent from actually contacted us and said, can I buy it back from you for what you paid for it, and we'll guarantee your price and give you another tent next year. They have someone who wants it. And their prices have gone up, so they're offering to buy our tent back and guarantee us a price next year. Okay, that could be okay, because then we don't have to store the tent for the entire year until next June, because things that get stored sometimes break. So we're preparing to open up a dialogue with them. So we would either take a full credit back or take the cash back and then just initiate it again. But we will have to rely on Barn 6 again this winter for all emergency supplies. I think that this... So Barn 6, we were told it had a couple years left in it. We have our emergency supplies in it. We're going to have to rely on it. If that barn has a collapse, we have no emergency supplies, we have no salt, we have no capability for doing snow plowing in the winter.
In context, did you think we would have to replace the clubhouse air conditioning this year? And we didn't think we'd have to replace the pool skimmer this year, and guess what? So what happens if that building falls down?
That's a very good question to put me on the spot. So what happens if Barn 6 falls down? We're going to have to come up with a very fast strategy for doing water protection on salt and sand. Once that sand gets cold and wet, you can't spread it. And the salt, well, you know what happens when water hits salt. You're not going to have salt. So our calcium chloride, we're going to have to find an alternate means to, and I don't even know what that is right now. We're going to have to make sure that building is in good shape. We're going to have to watch that building like a hawk over the winter. It could. I think that we're okay, but we're going to have to watch that building like a hawk this winter. Because if we lose it, we lose all our snow plowing and emergency supplies, which scared the water district when we talked to them the other day, because they have water breaks all year long, and without us snow plowing, they don't get up and down those roads at Gate 5, Gate 3. They can't get up there.
I would imagine that the county might have something to say about salt possibly reaching into the watershed.
All right, I really don't want to go down that discussion path, Larry.
Mr. President,
Is there any chance we can use the tall shed at all in Area Z for some, not all of the storage, of course, but some of it?
So Linda, it's a good question. The tall shed right now, we back in one of the snow plows. That's what it can handle.
Answers the question.
It's a good question. We keep the snow plows loaded and backed into buildings over the winter time so that at 4 o'clock in the morning, the sand and salt are not frozen and not wet down, and that they'll spread. Without having a place to store them indoors, you have no such luck. Let's go to the next one. Marina soft armoring. I put a kibosh on something on this today. We were getting hit by a regulator who was demanding that we remove all the tires from the interior basin, which was nowhere near our scope of work. So I met with the county, and after a nice conversation, they agreed no more conversation about tires being removed on this scope of work. When we dredge or touch the interior basin in the work in the future, they will want the tires removed then. So we're changing our permit on the soft armoring to only be the lakeside soft armoring. We will remove the contingency work from the interior of that scope of work. So we're only going to do the outside and the point on the opposite side on the inlet. With everything that we've anticipated so far, right now, we're sitting still with $42,672 left in contingency. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. Andrew. Andrew or Mike? Mike, which one? Andrew. Does anyone remember the last time we dredged?
When was the last time we dredged?
Okay, very good, thanks.
Linda, do you remember?
There's if you look back in the views, you can find it. We actually dredged, and it's how a lot of the current parking lot down in the marina is above the water table, is we took they took the dirt out of the dredging we did and spread it throughout the marina. I'd have to look for sure, but I want to say we're talking, yeah, definitely.
It's a multi-year process to plan. We had divers go through our channel last summer, and they said our channel was in good enough shape. But the interior of our basin is filling. And so just the water lapping at both shores has eaten in approximately 4 feet at both sides. And so we're losing ground on both the peninsula and at the homes along the lake.
And then sitting in the bottom.
And that dirt then goes into the basin. And so it gets shallower very close to shore, making it difficult for boats to turn around. We are going to have dredging as a planned activity to start that process for the marina within a year. It's going to take multiple years to get the permit for it.
Since that we do have an audience, you might mention that the marina is a significant source of income profit.
114 to 121,000, and we will increase the rates next year after these improvements, or I would recommend to my predecessor, the person who replaces me, recommend to increase the rates because we're doing significant improvements in the marina right now. 114 to 121, I think that's been the range. That working with you, Jennifer?
That's correct.
Okay.
Mitch, how far south are we going to go with the lakeside south soft armoring?
The soft armoring is going to go from the boat ramp that is inactive, that's correct, all the way to the point,
Yes.
and then stop there at the point.
No, nothing beyond.
Nothing beyond the point. And then on the opposite shore, on the point where you have all those spindly wood, those are going to get pulled out and replaced with shoring. They will not be nourishment gravel, they will be seawall.
Nothing south of the old boat ramp?
No.
Okay.
We did not fund that. That was in revitalization. It's not in this project.
Okay.
So right now, with this, we're at 42,672 holding in contingency. We go, and we're still we had a second shoreline permit. We already had one permit that we knew about, and then we were hit with an additional shoreline substantial development permit just for the point on shore. Those are very expensive permits, but the project is moving forward. We're tracking. And the ratios between Wilson and direct construction are holding within the range of what we use when we do all of our work on the roads at 25% range for engineering, design, inspection costs. Next one down. This is PNW. PNW we hired as our project management service, and they are holding with their contingency and their tracking on schedule. So right now, what we don't know is what else is going to hit us at Area Z. And we're having some concerns about it, which is why we're going to stop and defer this to summertime, which means that we're going to now have to have a conversation of how are we going to pay for that. And so we're having that conversation, and this is going to be our recommendation. The things that we're being hit with right now, the failures, the repairs, the damage, everything that's breaking, and everything is breaking on us, we're going to say do not increase the dues to pay for that because the dues are supposed to buy down our maintenance backlog. We're going to recommend we go back to the bank and increase our loan amount, and that will cost about $2 a month per, is that the number?
So if we went back to the bank for additional funds to cover our shortage, we think we should just go to the bank for approximately $500,000, and that would be $1.82 a month per additional $1.82 per month to serve per homeowner over the next 10 years at our current interest rate. So the current loan, the current interest rate would be $1.82 a month.
So if we increase, so staff's recommendation to you, the directors, is do not take the overrun or the extra costs here and pay for it out of our cash reserves. We have the cash reserves to pay for this. We feel that that would be a very bad thing for the association to use up its cash to pay for the extra costs that we're being hit with on this job. Those should stay for the purposes that they were being collected for. Increase the loan amount to pay for this project, and then also keep the change that you have right now for surf and roads. Wherever you put it, we're going to recommend a number, option 2, that the finance recommended, and keep that number without paying for the loan because we need to pay down the maintenance backlog.
Mr. President.
Question, the project management, the PNW or whatever their name is, I'm assuming that they thought that many of these projects were going to be done this year, with some of them continuing. That will still be fine with them, or there will be extra costs there over the 80,000?
Their comment to us this morning is they're tracking the cost. They're comfortable with where we are.
Okay,
we started off really slow. Now they're getting very intensive. This sheet is the total project cost tracker, and they're doing their job as we wanted them to do their job, and without them, we would be in serious trouble.
Okay, thank you.
Jennifer, did I cover all the points?
I believe that covers everything. Just, you know, as Mitch said, I think that it's important not to spend down our cash reserves. The association is so old and things have been neglected for so long that they're only going to continue to break. And we don't know how much that's going to cost in an emergency situation. And so if we instead increase our loan and increase the dues associated to pay for that increase in loan by about $1.82 a month, then that would allow us to continue to do the work that's already planned in our reserve study. It would allow us to finish this job, and it would ensure that if there was a major emergency, such as the whole HVAC and clubhouse breaking, but that we would have the ability to pay for that should it occur. And then on page 2 of your packet, packet, there's a draft of where all of our current reserves are. So you can see what those balances are estimated to be through the end of the year. So the month hasn't quite closed, but I just wanted to have a projection.
Which page? 2.
Page 2.
It's page after 1. Nope, sorry. That's page 2 with the yellow, or I thought that was superseded.
This is the one that was in the newspaper?
Page 3.
Page 3.
Page 3, I apologize.
Okay.
Page 3.
Our cash reserves are actually quite healthy, and they are being held for the right purposes, but we would recommend that the board consider it's time to do 2 things. One, let us go ahead and order the extra parcel boxes for the different mailbox clusters and spend out, which will close out the mailbox accounts. We have all of $2,875 in there, and it's just a lot of extra work to keep track of it. We're not putting more money in it.
So in the future, if a mailbox is damaged or something, then we would just put it right, take it to surf?
That's right. So if we go ahead and just buy more parcel boxes, which we do need, and then consider taking the board density reduction account and just closing it, put it into surf. Would you concur?
Yes, I'd concur.
It's a lot of extra accounts. They're used for that purpose.
That doesn't impact the budget at all. That's just a way of keeping books.
It simplifies the bookkeeping. Our emergency ops money is holding, and our UDR is growing. So we're financially quite healthy. We're doing what we're supposed to do, but we have to continue moving forward and doing the repair work, which is accelerating and increasing.
So when you say we're doing what we're supposed to do, does that mean we are starting to adequately fund, if not completely, but we are starting to adequately fund our surf and roads reserves? Is that what you mean? Or is
I believe that right now we're starting to get a grip on our maintenance. We're starting to really be able to get less reactive and more proactive, which is a real change in the tempo of how the association's been operating.
Is that a cheaper thing? Is it more?
It's too early. It's too early to tell. But you stay ahead of the repairs, so you have less emergent issues. You can see them coming, and you stay ahead of them, so our facilities are ready to be able to be used for the purposes that they're designed, instead of saying, "I'm sorry, you can't have the building because it's broken." That's one. Parks, that hit the ground running this year. That's working the way it's supposed to be working. They're already staying on top of what trails they're going to be trimming over the winter. So that program is unfolding very, very well. We're really happy with it.
Just, again, for the audience and for those who are watching the tape, that's a special fund voted on this spring that cannot be spent for any other purpose.
That's correct. Only that purpose. And it is monitored very closely. So our roads, if we fund at option B, we're going to have to stop and not do design work this year, which we usually do design work in 1 year and construction the following year. We're going to have to defer that for 1 year. Is that a correct statement?
Well, we have to defer the design work that was scheduled for this year either way.
That's correct.
Page 38.
Thank you. And so that does not mean no work will be done next year, is that correct?
We'll still be doing the road work and the micro sealing. Now, as I shared with you before, there is a strike going on, and the operator and crane operators are impacting. It's a flow down. And although I signed the contract today with the company for doing the micro sealing, they could be impacted and not micro seal. So We'll see what happens here.
In other words, the strike might mean nothing this year.
It's possible. If they can't perform, they can't perform.
Okay.
Well, they have only until the end of this month to do it, right?
September 30th.
Oh, so they're impacted by the dirt work season?
Yeah, not so much the dirt work, but by rain. When that wet slurry goes down, you don't want to put that slurry down with rain hitting it.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Mr. President, Linda.
Linda.
Okay, I'm looking at page 3, and it says roads are anticipated to have 28,187 left at the end of the year and after the holdback. Does that not include the design work for this year that Jennifer said would be deferred? And also on page 43, I think of it's like there's that 10-year plan, and that shows 2018 with only $9,263 in it at the end of 2018. I just wondered what the difference was.
So when I prepared these schedules on page 43 for this is roads, that was as of June 30th. So this is an updated projection for roads as of August 27th.
And so
we've collected some additional dues beyond what we anticipated. And then the design work for the culverts in 2018 hasn't come to the Finance Committee or the board, so you're correct, that's not included.
Thank you.
Anybody else, Mike?
No, sir.
So if it would be acceptable, Madam Treasurer, would this be a good time now to go through option 1, option 2? You're on.
Okay, so just to start on page 36, there's a summary of the budget discussion. You have before you again the proposed integrated 2019 budget, which I'm sure by now everyone has had some time to look over, and there'll probably be lots of questions. I just wanted to highlight what the adjustments were from the last time this was presented. I updated the anticipated number of lots for next year from 3156 to 3154 in total. We took 2 lots back deed in lieu, and so I do not project that there'll be dues paying lots next year. That doesn't mean we can't sell them and they become dues paying lots, but at this time they will not be. And then I also updated the number of developed versus vacant lots because we had all those new starts this year, 35 new starts, and so at the beginning of next year they'll become developed lots and pay that higher rate. So it's 2,650 developed lots and 504 vacant lots. The vacant lots went down and the developed lots went up. It's on page 36. Additionally, at the last board meeting, Linda asked a great question about the salaries and wages in the rec department, and there was an error in my formula. It only applied to that department, and so I corrected for that. And I also added in the lease income from the CTK. They rent out this space once a week for church service, and I put that into the rec department because this department cleans up after them, or if there's any cleanup that is needed, and she manages the lease, so it makes sense to put the lease in that department. And then I added $7,800, which was the amount of the lease, to the title and recording fees projected in the accounting department based on prior year trends. So that's the $125 that we get from every home sale. And so I think that based on historical trends, even in 2015 when there were less home sales, that we'll probably get closer to $27,800 than the $20,000 that was in there.
Are we banking or counting on continuing to have 30 some odd new homes every year?
So for the last approximately a 10% turnover as far as home sales go in the association. But in 2015, there were less home sales, and it's at that high rate, it's over $32,000, I think, that we get in title and transfer fees. It's on page. Let's see, title and transfer fees.
Page 3.
No, it's page 48. You can see GL code 4240, title and recording fees. So in 2017, it was $40,000. In 2016, it was $39,000. And in 2015, when home sales were less, it was $33,000. So I think that the higher estimate is reasonable, given the history, even if home sales go down.
Let me clarify something. Rich Hart, you had 5 more new starts people brought in today, 4 approved?
That sounds about right.
Yeah, so even with the numbers that we projected last week, now they're hitting close to 40.
So those are the main changes from last time. Just to review again, options 1 and options 2, we have on page 38, it's kind of small print, so it's printed larger, option 2 on page 37. So the first option is to be able to fully fund surf and roads over the next 10 years. And that does not put us negative in our surf and roads plans, or barely negative in that 9-year period from 2019 to 2027. And that would be $162.37 a month, or an 88% increase for the developed lot owners. And option 2 is like more of a ramp up in assessments as far as the plan goes, and each option collects approximately the same amount of money in surf roads and mailbox and operations over the 10-year period. And so that would be a 45% increase, or $125.55, and possibly an additional $1.82 for the increase in the loan to finish out both surf loan projects that Mitch reviewed prior. I think that also included on pages 40 and 41, 42 and 43, what the surf and roads projections are at each option. So you can see on page 40, the surf with option 1 assessments on row 296, that it's only just barely negative in 2019 and goes forward. And as we discussed at the prior 2 board meetings, the additional money that we have at the end of the year is because there are a lot of items that are not currently included in our reserve study that will be added in 2019. And those items that are not included are listed on page, what is that? 39?
39, yeah.
They're listed on page 39, and they will also be listed in the ballot measure, and they're very expensive things, such as the dredging at the marina. That's not included. The replacement of the barn, all the parking lots around the association, so the parking lot at the marina, the parking lot here outside the rec center, the retaining walls throughout the association, such as that at the adult center, which we now know needs to be replaced, paving at Area Z, parking bays and keyways all around the association. There are literally hundreds of those, campground road entrance work.
Sounds like a good chunk of that is road related.
A good portion of that is road related, that's correct. And then I think the dredging is the most expensive piece, probably at under surf. And
This building is probably $5 million.
Yeah,
There's a lot.
without a doubt.
And so we know these items are going to be added in. So when we look at this plan next year, we're not going to be shocked. We don't want to budget to 0 because that's not practical. We know what needs to be added, and the reserve consultants will work with them to find a dollar amount for each of these items and get them added in. There's just not time to update the reserve study before the budget measure this year.
So the number that you have extra at the end of the 10 years is a best guess stab at what that might be.
It's probably shy.
I'd say it's probably shy, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's a best guess stab. It's not accurate at all.
If anything, I think that it's shy. So on pages 42 and 43, we have surf and roads plans again, and this is with the option 2 projected assessments. So any year that there's a negative means that depending on what the board recommends, the finance committee and staff be spending some time to decide to continue to prioritize what needs to get done, because there's not enough money to do all the work in 2019 and 2020 with the lower tiered assessments, and then decide what projects to get pushed out, and then continue to reprioritize each year until there's enough money to fund all projects every year. And so that's quite a lengthy process. It's very time consuming, and a lot of effort goes into deciding a priority matrix from both staff and the board to decide what should get done and what should get pushed off, because costs, of course, continue to increase, but definitely it would be a more affordable option for
Regarding the cost
homeowners.
increasing, is that why the expected rate seems to go up higher under option 2?
Which expected rate?
The dues, the dues collection.
No, the dues, so I think if you're looking at page 38, and you're referring to Larry, for the 45%, 13%, 7%, 7% on, yep. So those increases are simply to account so my goal under option 1 and option 2 was to have the same amount of dollars come in operations, surf, roads, and mailbox over the 10-year period. In order, it does not account for any inflation
I'm just
for these
referring
jobs.
to the monthly rate is a little bit higher under option 2 towards the end of the 10 years.
It's higher under option 2 towards the end of the 10 years, and that was because since we start off with a lower amount, I has to increase at a greater rate to account to make up for that money that we didn't collect in years 1, 2, 3. That would have been that is collected under option 1.
Right, okay.
But it does not account for the increase in costs over the years. We'll have to see what that looks like in planning and down the road. That work has not been done yet.
Thank you. That's sort of what I was wondering. It does not include expected increases in cost.
That's correct. It does not include that.
Oy.
And then if we look at the roads on page 43, you can see that the roads plan, the expected residual at year end on row 97 is negative all of the years except 2027. So there'll be quite a bit of work that'll go into that as well to decide what projects will get done and where the design work, when the paving will be. So the timing of the projects is going to need to be adjusted in order to fit in with the adjusted funding levels.
The question that I have is if there's no extra until 2027, how are we going to ever afford anything? You know, it almost looks like, but I'm not a numbers person, it looks like we end up deferring so much that there's still this huge ball of deferred projects at the end of the 10 years.
I mean, theoretically, if all projects cost what they say they're going to cost in the reserve study, and there were no changes in those prices based on these schedules, theoretically, over a 10-year period, you could do all the same work under both option 1 and option 2. It's just what year is that work going to get done?
Okay.
Now, practically, the cost increase over the year. So there is going to be some changes in cost by stepping up the due structure, but we don't know what that effect is on the 10-year plan. All I can do is present what we have today, and with the plan that we have today and this change in the due structure, this is what it looks like. The other pages in the packet, 44 through the end of the packet, 52, is the operations plan, and it's what you've seen before with the slight changes that I discussed prior. So adjusting the head count in the rec department to be accurate, adding the CTK income to the rec department, and the $7,800 to accounting. Otherwise, there's no change from what you saw last time.
Okay. So is staff increasing significantly?
Staff?
Staff.
So the staff is summarized on page 46. And there will be an additional 4.5 people. Part of that is because 2.5 people is in the rec department because the rec department opened mid-year this year. And so there'll be a whole year next year.
Okay.
So, plus there is an additional part-time person budgeted into the rec department to cover the cleaning of all of the gym, which by the way looks really nice and clean, during especially the pool season. And then there's an additional head count in admin to account for as we lost the ACC person and front desk support. There was some slight admin in facilities because we moved part of the janitor's time is allocated to the rec department. And this year in 2018, we had part of the admin time allocated to the rec department for making all those cards. They take about 13 minutes each to make the access cards before they got moved over here to the rec department. So that's why there's a 0.2 and a negative 0.1 in admin and facilities. Maintenance, the 0.8 increase is simply to account for the time that they're already spending in operations. So in 2018, like any vacations that people take is operations, it's not capital, but we budgeted all that work in capital during the summer for roads, but people take most of their vacations in the summer, so they're not actually, that time gets billed to admin. And if you look at the actuals in 2018, you'll see that the maintenance labor is over, and that's from time that they took off, because that's not capital, or time that they spent setting up for different events, such as the 4th of July or the Bite of Sudden Valley. None of that was accounted for in the budget, so I properly accounted for it in the budget. And Clean Green in 2019.
Which is almost a month of activity.
Not Firewise.
Oh, Firewise.
It does a month of Firewise. That's...
Jennifer?
Yes.
I just want to make sure that the 2.5 people in the rec center now, this is being accounted for under the special assessment, correct?
This is under the special assessment. Mm-hmm.
So in other words, this was really mandated by the assessment being, or the whole project being approved. So we were going to have to go there this way anyway. So really, the net effect from last year is approximately 2 people.
That's correct.
And one of them is to cover Jessica's position, where she was more of a help in admin, and now she is so busy with almost 40 homes that and all of her responsibilities regarding hazardous trees, we had to create her position as a separate one instead of helping in admin. Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure I understood. Maintenance, I get that too now. Thanks.
I would just like to open it up to questions, see what questions people have about the budget, things that are included, not included, and adjustments that you'd like to see, clarifications.
The first question is regarding golf. Are we increasing the number of people, seasonal, et cetera, that we have in golf?
There's a slight change. We increased, we added a head pro started, and Brian's time was correspondingly decreased, but that head pro started mid-year. And so the 0.1 increase is because now he's going to be a whole year.
Full year.
Full year in 2019.
So we're really not changing.
No, there's no change in the staffing for golf.
Here's another question. The last time we heard about golf, we were told that golf would be making a profit this year. Is that still look to be holding correct, despite the fact that we've had smoky weather and...
July wasn't so good for anybody.
July was not good for anybody.
So when we last checked, I think that he was $67,000 net.
I'd have to review the financial statements. I don't remember offhand.
I mean, they're way ahead, way ahead than last year. And we went through those numbers at finance.
I know revenue is up about $70,000, but I don't recall what the net is.
Okay. I think certainly community members would love to hear whether golf is continuing to decrease, I guess, our profit margin after the Marina brings in so much income.
Well, it is true, but with the $70,000 revenue, I mean, we now have Brian marketing, and with the head pro watching over golf and Brian marketing, it's showing response.
So can I just ask a quick clarification? You said,
Who are you again?
pardon me?
Who are you again?
So with the increase in the golf, you added somebody, and then you said that Brian pulled his time back. So is that a one-to-one change? So
Brian pulled his time back to 60% time, and we brought in a full-time person. So
It almost nets to zero.
he's also, the other person is making substantially
less.
But there's a benefit cost.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, good question. Thank you.
Linda?
Linda?
I'm going to be the monster in the room.
What page are you on, please? When you?
Let's see.
Actually, I thought your phrase was,
I'm going to be the monster in the room. So golf next year is scheduled to lose, when all is said and done, $88,584.
Please, what page?
It's lots of pages. You first have to go to the Golf Pro on page 24, and this is from the packet we received before. And basically, if you look
In other
at,
words, people don't have that page 24 in front of them, is that correct?
well,
I do.
but we were supposed to bring all this, wasn't we? And we were going to talk about.
Okay, very good.
And
So
if you
those of
haven't-
you who remembered to bring your package, it's on last
Okay.
week's package.
So the Golf Pro bottom line is they're going to make $439,252.
Huh? The Golf Pro is going to earn that much? Is that what you just said?
Yes, now wait a minute, that's only half of the golf, how do I say this, of the golf budget.
Golf enterprise.
Again.
Yes.
This is the previous sport.
Right here, right there.
I am very confused, Linda. What is your question?
Because if you take in, and I have to find where the other half of this is, turf care, their costs for turf care for the full year is, I'm sorry, $539
Page now, please.
What page and what?
of 46.
What's the date, please? From last
time.
August 23rd meeting?
Yeah, this was prepared for us August 17 of 2018. We don't have the detail in this.
Page again, Linda?
There's two numbers on the bottom. It says, on the
39.
left, it says page 24 of 32, and on the right, it says page 38 of 46. So
39.
39 of 46 is where it's finalized.
the total, okay?
When you take in
Right,
what it
okay.
costs to operate turf care, that's $527,836. If you subtract that from the other, once again, it's operating in the red. If we're doing so well, why? I ask this question every year. I told you I'm the monster in the room.
No, it's not a monster question. It's, okay, we expect to make a profit this year, but next year we're forecasting another loss.
That's correct.
And why is that?
So the only changes in golf, there's increased labor costs, and there are increased costs in raw materials. Otherwise, everything in golf is the same as 2018, that no other increases were requested.
Is that a state mandated wage cost increase?
So minimum wage goes up to $12 an hour in 2019, and it will go up to $13.50 an hour in 2020. And in order to avoid wage compression, the wages had to be increased. Additionally, a lot of our some of those staff were already on the minimum wage threshold, but they're doing work above a minimum wage job. And so those wages were increased.
Okay, so if we are going to make a profit next year, that means that we have to overcome the impact of increased wages and increased material costs.
each year from here on out, because it doesn't just end at 2020, it keeps going. That's what Washington state law is now.
That's right.
So these are substantial increases, and we're going to have to find other ways to make more profit.
Linda, does that explain?
It does. It's a considerable amount of money that's being funded by the dues that people pay. And it's just, I'd like to see it get down to a number that's not, we're talking 80, 90,000 a year, that it's done. If the rest of the year goes great, fine and dandy. We haven't seen financials for July or August. Usually, I think that golf is seasonal, and by September, if it goes wet now, they'll lose it. If it stays dry, they'll maybe gain a month. But a lot of times, if they haven't banked enough money to get to the end of the year, by the time the end of the year is reached, we're dipping into dues coffers to pay the salaries, wages, and expenses of that department.
I'd like to clarify that point.
I mean, she's saying if there's a loss in the department, then you're right, then it's coming out of the dues, to pay for that. If there's a profit, then it adds to what the membership doesn't have to pay
Why are
at the
we
end of the
not
year.
considering the fact that the Marina is pulling in a healthy profit?
We are, that's considered, and it's included in the current year's budget, as you can see on,
Oh, I understand that. It's included.
included in the budget.
I
So
have a
that
very
means that we don't have to pay those dues.
I have a very simplistic attitude.
Okay?
If golf loses this and the Marina brings in that, why are we concerned about the loss in golf?
Two different.
That's a board discussion, I
Two
think.
different operations.
Well, there's two different operations. One's bringing in a profit. That profit neutralizes the loss.
But
Am I wrong?
But if golf were revenue neutral,
Then you wouldn't, yeah.
I understand.
understand.
That's always been my argument.
That's totally understandable. Totally understandable.
So
My gut level hasn't been disputed yet.
we're looking at different things that we can do for increasing revenue on golf, and we see a couple of very novel things on the near term. And I believe that you will hear about these in the fourth quarter. But there has to be a way to stay ahead of your competition and continue to market, but make more money. And that's what we're working on.
So
Because costs are going to go
regardless
up.
of my gut level, you're saying you're busting tail to make golf revenue neutral.
You have to continue to increase profit, utilizing golf and leveraging its capabilities, bringing in more cash, because costs are going to continue to rise, not just to us, but the entire industry, everyone else. All right?
To that point, can I ask a quick question? When you calculated anticipated revenues for next year, did you use the numbers based on this year? Did you anticipate any increase in membership? Did you jump that based on what we've seen this year? And was there any type of an increase for marketing, as that seemed to make a difference this year? So has that been considered to continue to escalate
This year's
to
numbers.
cover that for next year?
The 2018 numbers were used to estimate the projection for 2019. And I've been told that it's still too soon to see how the additional marketing exactly is going to affect revenue, what that dollar impact is going to be.
You have to look at this over a period of at least a year, if not 18 months. A successful sale event of 1 week does not tell you portend the entire year.
Correct.
So is the strategy working? And you have to measure it fairly and equitably to get over a better period of time to understand, are you succeeding?
So we've left that somewhat flat for next year
It's conservative.
based on historical, not an anticipated what we think we're going to do.
Andrew?
Well, this is piggybacking off of this same conversation, but it really applies to the fines and fees discussion, which I know we decided we would talk about next. But to add to the conversation, I was noticing on the fines and fees that our Marina, if we take the annual wet moorage select slip the member price is $890 and the non-member is $1,610. So that's a 44, almost a 45% difference between the non-member and the member price. And the golf member for an annual member, single member is $1,520 and the non-member is $1,670. So that's a difference of about 9%. Have we considered a flat rate applied to all of our enterprises for non-member and member?
No, we have more of a, we're a golf course in a county with a lot of golf courses. We're a marina with no competition.
The marina actually only has one non-member who rents out a dry slip. All the other slips are used by members because members have priority.
So we're not getting any differential off of that?
Not really.
No.
Okay.
I suppose you'd have to test that, though, to be sure, correct, on the golf side?
Say that again, Andrew.
I suppose you'd have to test that theory on the golf side with the non-member member.
It would be a risky venture to test it by increasing the rate and saying, okay, I got to figure out now why I lost so many members and what it's going to take to bring them back. So it's an interesting challenge. I'd be open to a discussion on it.
That reminds me, since we're talking about the issue, where does it stand with our potentially picking up some business from other courses due to the fact that they aren't doing well?
We had quite a nice run this weekend, and we stole that whole, I'm trying to remember where we got it from.
We didn't steal, we outbid.
Padden. We had one this weekend, and we did take it from Lake Padden, and it was substantial. We're continuing to do that, and that I don't think was a one-off. That transferred here. So I think we're picking up another corporate account, one of the other major car dealers in town. It's this process.
It's a process.
But the Lake Padden one was a big one. That is going through serious problems with the city of Bellingham, and that they're evaporating and leaving, and we're picking them up. That portends good things.
So we're working that angle.
Mr. President, Carol?
Yeah.
I was going to comment on Andrew's question about the golf pricing. The one thing I know about Brian, who's been in the business decades, he knows every golf course, he knows every fee, he knows every amenity every golf course has. He studies them inside and out. I actually worked with him one year to create a business plan for golf. I was floored by all the information he has and everything he knows about his competition. The other thing is he has strong relationships with those competitors, and he, together with the other competitors, put together partnership-type situations that provide us with income we wouldn't get otherwise. But he also knows that he feels pretty certain that he knows to increase the fees, he could get perhaps more money, but he'd probably, per person, but he could potentially also lose more people, which would, the net effect would be we'd lose money. So he balances that really closely, and he keeps in touch with all of the local people because of our competition. And the one thing that we do not have, we have a lot of wonderful things as far as our golf course that others don't have. The one thing we don't have is we're off the beaten path.
Oh.
And it's more difficult for people to come here, so you don't want to discourage them by making it more expensive or a lot of other things. But the other thing is that since we got El Agave in place, remember we were without a restaurant for quite some time, we lost a lot of our tournaments. And Brian said it would take us 7 years to get them back. He's done it in 3 or 4. So I believe that we're headed in the right direction, but golf is a finicky program that a lot of people aren't playing golf anymore, and he's trying to generate more interest in it, and he's, I think, doing a good job with all of his family plans and foot golf and that sort of thing. So I think we have to stay the course as far as the things he's doing and trust that he knows when it's time to raise dues.
That's just my feeling. I'm confident with his ability to come up with those ideas.
He's leveraging. I mean, can you guys comment on the 9 in wine?
Oh, 9 holes in wine?
9 in wine. So he's got, I mean, here's an example. He's got a new group of members and on a regular basis, and they're signing up and they're doing the front 9 and then all having wine together at El Agave.
Swing and slide.
It's called 9 in Wine, and it's, I think, a Friday night, or it is an afternoon thing, and
It's a Monday. I can speak to that one. There were.
please, this is a growing group of people.
There were nearly 50 women there for 9 in Wine from their mid-20s to over 70. Many of them were first-time golfers or people like myself that hadn't golfed in 10 years. So, wow. I mean, the El Agave was packed afterwards with a lot of golfers, and my understanding is it's going to become a regular monthly event.
Great.
Yeah.
This is growing. We're looking at other things along that path. Now, I don't want to say we're just boozing the place up, but there are other activities that we're looking at, and we're looking at some of our facilities, how we can leverage them with minimum cost to increase more social golf activities that are cash intense.
Great news. Maybe we should get off of golf now.
I think we've talked it to death.
Yeah, there's other things in the budget.
Yes, we do, yes.
We did re-sign El Agave. You mentioned El Agave. So they re-signed for 5 years today.
And they get a rate?
$70, they get, it goes up $70 a month every year. We're following the same lease. It was a one-time extension. The rates were set last on this lease when it was originally put together. And it was set, if you renew, here's your rates for the next 5 years. They optioned the lease.
Okay, that's superb. Just for your understanding, this is the first actual paying customer as a restaurant business in Sun Valley in, I don't know, Linda, what, 20, 30 years?
I don't know if we ever had
Before
one
Bob's.
before.
I'm not sure.
Sun Valley used to run the restaurant themselves.
And it lost
money
big.
hand over fist.
Yeah.
And that's why we closed it. And then we had Palmer's.
Yeah.
The Halloween.
Bob's Burger and Brew, it
Bob's
ended up
Burger
owing
and
us
Brew.
2 years
Well,
worth of due.
That was the second
rent.
manager. The first manager did a reasonably good
he
job.
did a really
Okay, all right.
And then the second one came in, and all he was interested in was playing golf. So he didn't pay attention to the business.
In any event, we have a rent now that's been steady for years, and that's a wonderful thing.
Great PR person. Can I ask a budget-related question, please?
Yeah. That was budget-related, dude.
It is 10 to 15.
Yeah, I know it's getting late. We're all getting a little tired here,
Punchy.
but on page 49.
49, 6,
Page 49 of today's agenda.
49.
Yeah,
It's got a hole through it. You might look at it as page 29 of 30 blank.
my question has to do with the large budget difference between 2018 and 2019 in the new home construction fee.
Eric, we never extrapolate what the amount of money will be. We go in very, very low, conservative. So on one case, you're starting to look at an actual, and the other is no projection, very low projection.
So this is sort of relevant to a member question earlier this evening. We do project some income, but we don't project nearly a flat continuation of a current year's income.
We don't project fines, we don't project fees, we don't project collections for home sales, we don't project collections for new sales and starts. All of that, we just don't. All right, because you don't want people to think, oh, okay, I'm counting on fines. So David, how are you? I mean, you just don't do that. So same thing. I mean, how would we speculate? All right, well, we would have never thought we hit 39. We're at 39 homes. What, last month we reported we were ecstatic at 25. There's no calculation.
Mr. President, Linda.
Linda?
So I'm going to go to page 42. We looked at this whole thing with the option 2 projected assessments, and I wondered if two things. The additional money that Jennifer mentioned is taken into the collection amount, and also if the amount of the increased loan amount is on that next line, it's like line 6 and 7, I think.
I would doubt that, frankly.
Yeah. No, that's not possible. I mean, we just decided to defer today. At 8:15 this morning, and decided to defer the Area Z project to next year, and then said, all right, what is our proposal going to be? And so that's a number that was not updated in this.
So are there going to, that would make considerable changes to the flow of what happens from this year going forward if you're deferring work and stuff, correct?
I don't know. The loan amount that we're talking about would impact the loan projects that we are currently doing, excuse me, those 4 projects, and so that would almost be revenue neutral to that. If you stay with option 2, that buys down SURF. If we increase it to $1.81 or that Jennifer came up with, then that's just revenue neutral to the loan.
Okay, I just wondered if those numbers were in there, or if there's something
that
that'll
increased
need to be
500,000 is not.
Yeah, it's too soon for that, and I presume that might be in the next stuff.
If that's what the board says, this is our recommendation to you.
Well, I presume, though, this is your recommendation, so you're going to revise this.
We're going to recommend, and we are already opening up a dialogue with the bank to say, here are our concerns, this is what we want to do. And we want to confirm that that is, first off, it's a viable option, that we're opening up a talk saying this is what we propose, but if they came back and said, no, it's not an option, but we believe it is.
Okay.
We need to do that to tell you the direction that it's executable.
Right. We need the research. Leslie?
Yeah, I wanted to move into a kind of a little different point of view at this time. We've been discussing a lot about line items within the operations budget, and bring it up to the fact of if you use Plan 2, what actually are you increasing? The first thing is roads. Now, at the last AGM, we put on the ballot a 10-year plan for roads, and it basically, it passed by 57%. It was for $14, and that says to me that that's what the members are interested in. Now, of course, it didn't pass because it didn't get 60%, so we couldn't spend any of that money, but it looks like you're putting back, you know, okay, instead of $14, $15 a month.
It's a year later.
For roads, yeah, right. And
$1.
I think that we have heard expressed by many people who talked to us tonight, roads, number one is roads. So I feel very comfortable with that number, adding to $15 a month to the dues. Now, as far as the SURF number goes, that number, for, again, Plan 2, is projected to increase $15. That's another thing that people have said for years. Our reserves are not being funded. And if I look at the suggestions that are made by the revenue team, even this $15 is not what they recommend. I mean, to me, this is a good start. So I will also say that I am in favor of the SURF increase of $15 a month.
President Linda.
Okay, so here's my big question of the day. So are we talking about, no page.
Okay.
Are we talking about a 10-year plan, all-inclusive, all this stuff we've looked at, for ops, for SURF, for roads, or are we talking about a one-year operational for 2019 and then possible it would be possibly, I'm assuming, 2 special assessments that would go the 10 years. I think that
No, ma'am,
begs the
we are not
question.
considering that at all. We're not, I mean, this plan does not have special assessments in it. Now, you did ask a question about, are we planning a 10 years? Well, we can't. We have no legal authority to plan longer than 1 year ahead. However, what this shows is how we got to that number, because we have to look forward 10 years, at least with regard to roads and certainly the SURF. That's a reasonable planning horizon. And if you work backwards through that, you come to a recommendation for next year. Boom, that's it. That's all we have the legal authority to deal with. Next year is, we can't tie dues next year, or excuse me, in 2020, this year. This year, people will vote on dues and budget for 2019.
That's why I was asking about the special assessments, because we've been looking at that, and as Leslie brought up, we did this last year. It gives people some stability that, you know, and.
Oh, you're saying if we did a special assessment?
Yes, or if you
would.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
That's my whole point of, I can understand just the budget for ops for a year. I get that. But I'm saying, for me, if you look at dues for over this 10-year period rather than special assessments, number one, you tie people's hands. I get that. And also, if they're dues instead of special assessments, there's nothing to stop a future treasurer and a future board reallocating funds, and then, coin a phrase, it all goes to hell in a handbasket for everybody.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
And if it were my proposal, I would say we go with option 1 for that very reason. Because we get the money this coming year to start doing what needs to be done. But that's a huge increase.
Oh, yeah.
It's a huge increase. I recognize that. People don't want to pay it, and some people might not be able to pay it. And we've run into legal roadblocks in trying to figure out a way to make it affordable for those people who have the most problem. So we're going to have to really get our thinking caps on to help them out. You know, what can I say? We need to have the money that option 1 says. That's what I call a bare bones plan for spending over 10 years to achieve what should have been done over the last 40. Okay? But I don't think people are.
It's not realistic.
It's not realistic, as Leslie says. It's just, you know, it's not realistic.
And that's why I just asked if moving forward we start, you know, rather than having this discussion about dues this and, you know, are we going to look at that option again? That's all I'm asking of the board.
Well, that's a good question. That's a good question, and I think everybody should think about it. Maybe it's too late tonight to discuss it, but we should think about it.
I brought my pen.
Mr. President, David, then Paula.
Yeah.
I mean, do we not have a possibility of another option, which is just what Leslie was referring to, Linda, the business about, since that proposal came so close to being passed, and it would give us 10 years out on roads fixed, that we would take care of 2 surfacings of that material, and the total would still be, you might say, the same amount, if you will, except it's removed, and it's something that obviously 57% really needs that, and it just doesn't feel too unreasonable to say, tell you what, let's take a look at that option 2, and maybe is there like a 2A and split that out? Is there time to take a look at something like that seriously for a proposal?
It is time to do that. I am bound, because I'm an officer of the court, even if in only Texas, I'm bound to say we need to consider some legal advice that we've received, and since that's legal advice, I would have to discuss that in closed session.
Mr. President, we're back
Thank
to
you.
Paula then.
I don't know if it's relevant within that, but I just wanted, given your question, I just wanted to say when this came to the Finance Committee, what we were asked to do and look at it was for the 1 year. So we were given the two options, and the first one was we asked, that Finance Committee asked staff to come and say, what would it look like to fully 100% fund those things and to fund operations? That's the one and only purpose really that came forward out of that, was how could we do that? What would that look like? And then option two is presented as something obviously a little bit more, how could we get there knowing that roads is such a priority, and that was $15. And with SURF, I mean, it's 136% increase just to get $15. So that was grossly underfunded.
Grossly.
So, I mean, that's 136% to add $15 to our capital. I mean, that was huge. And then it was a 16, I think it comes, what this says, 14.3% to ops increase over it. And so we were asked to really look at something that was manageable while being responsible to the corporation, as well as being responsible and compassionate to the community, and to look at what we could do. When we had all of those 10 years put in front of us, back in the audio, we really said, those are great numbers to have, because that's where we know we have to get to, but we need to look at 1 year. We need to look at what do we do for next year, because we can't possibly guess where all of the rest of that's going to go. So just so that, to give kind of maybe some background to how the Finance Committee was looking at this as we went through the process, as to were we looking at 10 years? I think we looked at the numbers, but we didn't take those into account for a decision as much as we did what happens next year.
Mike.
If that helped. I don't know if that's.
Mr. President, Carol?
I think one of the concerns I have is looking at page number, what is this, 43, I guess. Option 2, talking about the planned SURF. Is that what I'm on? Oh, no, this is the roads plan option 2 on page. Am I the right one?
Yeah,
43
is the roads. 43 looks like roads.
43 roads, that's the one I'm looking at. So, and this is option 2. But, and I know we have not looked at what can we shift and move and so forth, but if it's left as it is, it's year 10 before we get caught up. So just understand that given Leslie's comment about roads, we get into the year 2021, we'd have to come up with another $1.3 million in order to do just the barest minimum of what's being said in our 10-year plan. And it just concerns me that we're in the red on option 2 every single year. And that means deferment. In order, we're going to have to defer a lot of projects in order to get that done. Or, I'm just saying, that's the future. And obviously, what Paula just said is what we have to concern ourselves with. It's only $250,000 we'll be in the red next year.
Yeah.
Which means we got to find a way to defer $250,000 worth of business if we go with option 2.
And my understanding is that this particular page has not been revised to reflect the fact that the roads need to have their, what did you call it, the edges?
You need to have the, kerf the edges of the roads to ensure the rain rolls off, not travels down the road.
In other words, we have a special assessment from 2016? Yeah, 2016, to do work to improve the drainage of water in the culverts, but the water can't get into the culverts because the road is about 2 to 3 inches below the grass. So that
I've been watching the county crews.
the county just did it a couple of days ago. So all of that has to be done. And I don't know, but I don't think it can be done in 1 or 2 years. It might have to be scheduled over 10 years.
This was our first year that we rebuilt a ditch. And we outsourced it to our contractor because it's a skill set, believe it or not, we don't have.
No, really?
Oh, yeah. Our maintenance people can do a lot of things, but they had to be shown how to rebuild those ditches. And there's a lot of shallow lines in there. Some of them are 10.5 feet deep, some of them are 4 inches below soil. So there's risk in touching those things.
Okay, so digging out the ditch means you might be putting at risk power lines, cable TV, gas in a few areas, water, yeah, okay.
It's a risky little venture.
So it just can't be done willy-nilly with a pick and shovel?
No, sir.
Mr. President, Eric.
Yeah.
I want to remind folks that these 10-year projections are projections about how to pay for work that is identified in a 10-year projection that is created by our reserve analyst and by our roads engineers. And so the projection is going to change every year.
Every year.
All right, we're going to have things come out of the reserve study, some big things that were big numbers a couple of years ago. When a couple of buildings got removed, that took those numbers out of the reserve study. There might be things added in, but the fact is that if we, as Linda said, tie the hands of a future board by saying how much we're saying 10 years from now you're going to be paying, I absolutely don't agree that we should tie the hands of any future board, because they have their duty to do when they become board members too, just like we have this year. And so we're doing our work this year for next year. Next year's board is going to be in the hot seat next year to do their work, and this whole plan will be different. And the things that are in the negative projected for next year, the good thing about that is it's a whole lot smaller negative number in this projection than it would be without any increase at all. We have had to defer, always had to defer. The projection for next year is we won't have to defer so much, and we'll be catching up. The positive trend over the 10 years is to get caught up with this plan, but this is simply a projection based on a projection, which is going to change at our next reserve study. So,
Mr. President, David.
I mean, we still have passed special assessments, and in spite of the fact what you're talking about, things change. Money's gone into the parks and trails and what have you, and if we would have got another 2.5%, we would have had 10 years of roads we wouldn't have to be worrying about. So I don't think it's unreasonable to have something like a special assessment, and based on what the community has requested, and a majority, it was significantly past a majority that they wanted that. I don't think it's terribly unreasonable for us to say, tell you what, you know what, you guys don't have voting like you have. However, we respect your interest and that you vote, and we know and you know that roads are really important, and majority of you, significantly past majority, wanted 10 years out of us to say the roads are going to be in good shape for 10 years. The other stuff, and also the business about wants and needs. Most people see the roads as a need. It's not just, it's nice to have a nice road. Sorry, it's a need. So from several different vantage points, I think it would be advantageous for us to seriously consider something of that kind and be able to have that fixed. And granted, things will change, but so does, we've passed special assessments for other things that have changed. We've got something now going on, and we're devoting that money to such and such. You know, life changes, but the sense is that doesn't mean we make intelligent, reasonable decisions about things for the future. And the sense is, to me, it's not terribly unreasonable to nail that down. We've got the roads. People want roads. It's a need. It's not a want. That sort of puts it in a box, and we can account for that. The other stuff, you know, those are the wants. And, you know, I may go along with the idea that, okay, lots of things change, lots of wants change, lots of this, that, and the other thing change. But the roads, we nail it down. Anyway, I think that we ought to give serious consideration for all of those reasons.
Okay, just to add in, reminding folks that it's not just a need because our members say it's a need. It's a legal requirement that we fully fund our roads. Our restrictive covenants tell us we have to do that, and once we realized that ditches and culverts were not included in that, we realized we had never, in fact, been fully funded. And so it's going to take us a while to get caught up.
But in that case, I was just suggesting that both...
I'm just sort of adding to your point.
Yeah, they coincide perfectly.
Mr. President, Linda, then Leslie?
I guess the thing that I'm looking at, I remember last year I looked at roads. I think that spreadsheet has changed exponentially in how much money we've added stuff. There's some of that stuff, quite frankly, I don't think belongs in there. I don't think building foundations belong in there. I don't think the marina blacktopping belongs in there. You know, Mitch has already showed us tonight, and that is kind of scary, that some of these projects that we've set, especially a huge number like the 2 million and the design work, which I believe is another 800,000 for the marina.
Yeah, okay, the marina parking, yeah.
And I'm saying, if we're looking at that a couple years out, we've dumped that in there, but what's going to happen when we go? It's like Mitch was saying, out of the blue, even with the armoring, you've got somebody coming in and going, wait a minute, stop what you're doing. I want this, I want that. And I'm saying there's so much of that I think we put roads in there. I think we put the culverts and the swales in there, and we've committed ourselves by a special assessment to always spend, like, what is it? It's a little over 100,000 a year, and then with, you know, increases and stuff, so that we continue to do that work. And I think for that reason, it's really good. Other than that, I don't know. I really think...
Are you suggesting that if there is a special assessment for roads, that it not include certain things?
I'd like to see a little bit of it weeded out of there, but that's just me, you know.
All right, I just want to make sure I understood what your point was.
Comparing last year's proposal with what we're looking at now, and where some of these things really, if you're talking about the marina, maybe that needs to be a separate thing all by itself, you know, and really look at what are the costs going to be, so we don't go, here, we need 2 million, and we end up needing 3 million. It's just, I guess that's why I'm concerned with some of those items.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Leslie, sir.
Yes, it is now 20 minutes to 11. How much more do we expect to accomplish, or what do we expect to accomplish before we retire for the night?
Well, I would propose that we rise out of this quasi
morass?
Committee of the whole situation and go back into regular session for...
Microphone.
And go back in regular session.
And the purpose would be?
If there's any reason to need to make a motion to adjourn, we might want to be in session.
Okay, so he's recommending that we stop this. Leslie, does that help give you some input?
Well, I am just asking for input. You know, what is there any more that you intend to accomplish tonight that you'd like to keep going with this, or shall we just?
Let's get some more input. Okay. David?
Yeah, I really would like to see the board consider an option like an option 2A dealing with the thing that both Leslie and Linda were talking about and I was talking about. I think that 10%, whatever that proposal was, for 10 years out, I believe I fathered that or whatever.
Do you want us to decide that tonight?
No, we don't necessarily have to decide it tonight, but I think it needs to be looked at and perhaps the next meeting that it be a serious consideration on the table.
That's the only question. Do we do it tonight or do we do it next time? Sir.
Well, the question I have for David and for Leslie and Linda, are you talking about at this year's AGM, or is that?
Yes, for me, yes.
Linda?
Yes, it would have to be if we're going to move forward with what we've been presenting.
And I would be concerned about voting on anything tonight, because the minute we vote on
Right.
anything for the budget, all of a sudden,
Right.
Linda's timeline starts.
Right. Oh, gosh, that's
Yeah.
true. Yes, our
Yes.
legally required timeline starts, so we
Right.
can't actually vote until next week.
Exactly.
Yes, ma'am.
The other thing is, didn't you say that we need to have a conversation with,
I need
People
to,
about
I
it.
need to educate the whole board about a bit of information from Rich Davis,
And we,
relevant to this issue.
okay, we still have property owner comments coming.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
we do.
All right.
Can I make a recommendation then?
You
Is
certainly
that, that perhaps Linda, whoever else is interested in the special assessment, David, maybe come prepared to discuss it in more detail? What would it look like? What would it be? And how would it be presented? You know, what would?
Like an actual motion.
Like what would a motion look like?
Yeah, yeah.
If we were to do it, even though we won't probably be voting on it. Well, we would vote on it
No,
next
we need to vote on it next week.
You're going to run out of.
No, you're right. I'm sorry. I forgot it was September.
So I'm not saying a nicely worded, but at least some bullet points to talk about what your concerns are and what you want to
I've got a
accomplish.
Just
template
exploded.
from last year.
Jennifer's head just exploded.
Well,
If I may,
Yes, you may.
I believe that I've been told that everything has to be finalized and ready to go to the printer by mid-September, and it's already September 6th. And I believe that there may not be enough time to calculate and put together another special assessment calculation at this point, seeing as that it's September 6th.
I would only request Linda to clarify whether the numbers that appear on option 2 would be significantly different.
I don't know how they would be for roads.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I heard her posit was the removal of a couple of big items.
Those items have to be funded somewhere.
I see what she's saying.
Yeah.
I get what she's saying.
Yeah, they do have to be, well, unless the board makes a decision that we're not going to decide anything about those items because they're so big that we're just going to put them off.
I believe that the new WCOA law requires that anything over 2% of the budget be included in the reserve study.
Oh, you're right about that, the new law. Thank you.
Miss? Go ahead, Eric.
I wonder, Larry, if at the end of the meeting tonight, if we should have a short closed session so that you can relate this new issue, so that anyone that is contemplating coming up with a plan like this have this information, because it's going to be integral.
That's a smart idea. It won't require a vote. It'll just be me basically conveying what Rich has said to me. And we can do that after member comments.
Yeah.
So Eric proposed somebody make a motion to go back into regular order.
We did. We made that motion.
Okay, did it get seconded?
No. Oh, good.
Oh, I didn't hear that. Okay.
Yes, it did.
All right, so all in favor of going back into regular order?
Who was the second?
I have no clue.
Mike?
Mike, okay.
All in favor of going back into regular order?
Yeah.
That's essentially everybody. Okay, we're back into regular order.
Member
Yeah, property owner comments.
Swan, I have a few questions here. Mitch stated when I was asking about the amount on the budget allotted to pay the general manager that he did not resign, and I went right over that without asking. I got an email saying that he resigned, so.
Well, that's, yeah, okay. What occurred was the non-extension of a renewed contract.
Okay. There was a fee charged to Ed Malpica. Is that on the budget anywhere? there or on, anywhere on the financials that I can?
I have,
No, and nor is it appropriate for you to ask. It was a personal license between a member and the association, so that would be the member that would come and inquire. And the fee hasn't been paid?
It has not been paid?
No.
Okay.
and that's probably too much to have said already.
Yep.
But that would be something that would show on the financials.
I don't know that it would, and nor would it be identified by name. So we're not going to talk about that anymore.
So on the approved budget spending plan for 2018, it had the golf income at 700 and something thousand. And using the numbers that Linda just shared, with the turf care cost and the salaries, that's,
For 2019 is what she just shared.
okay.
So you're talking 2018, and she was talking 2019.
That's a significant difference of over $200,000 that we would be in the red.
No.
And if the income from the golf course is 700 some thousand, and turf care and salaries add up to over 900,000, that's a significant loss. And I'm a little confused as to if these numbers are really different in 2019, which I don't think they are. That sounds like a significant loss for the golf course, not a running in the black like you were saying.
Well, running in the black is for this year, not next year. She pulled out numbers for next year. Now, what you may have missed is that it was explained that salaries are going up pursuant to Washington state law. Raw material prices are going up pursuant to tariffs due to trade wars.
So it's looking like if things go as they have been, we'll be $250,000 in the red in 2019 for the golf course.
I will ask somebody who understands numbers better than I do to comment on that, and we may not have an answer for you immediately.
2019 is budgeted at approximately an $88,000 loss
Okay.
for the golf course.
So
And does that include turf fees and all of the salaries?
Golf and turf.
The entire enterprise.
Okay. And what about the pro shop? Now, from what I understand that there is no income coming from the pro shop, maybe that should change with this.
that's part of the pro's salary. It helps keep our salary
We don't see that
expenses
number on
low.
the budget?
No,
That's because it's part of his salary.
not our money.
It's not our money.
It's not our money, it's not our inventory, it's run by Brian.
But the space and the utilities and the employees that work in there are paid by
Some.
what?
Some. So you're inquiring about numbers, but you're not asking about the topic. So the topic that you're asking about is, why does the golf pro get a golf shop and get to keep the income from the golf shop as part of his salary? Is that the bigger question?
When we pay for the utilities, we pay for the employees that staff it, and the building belongs to.
We pay for some of the employees. The employees that staff it are the ones that are marketing and setting up the rounds, having customers go out there. He pays for his own merchandiser that takes care of his clothing sales and golf clubs and all that. So a couple years ago, we ran a study on golf pros and how do they at golf clubs and golf courses have contracts set up where there's a golf shop. This, we discovered, was a standard norm.
Okay, so it's a standard norm for them to be given a space and employees and not pay utilities or insurance or anything such as that.
And not to pay
run the
them
business.
the extra money, they earn that on their sales.
Okay.
It's a choice between paying them a higher salary or allowing them to have this. And this takes the risk off of us and puts it on him.
So So it's the social activities that you're talking about to bring in more golfers, bring in more profit. It sounds like El Agave is the winner in that situation. I guess I'm wondering if their rent has kept pace with inflation. Like, we are.
You may have missed, every year they pay an additional $70 a month over the prior year.
Yes, I did hear that, actually. So is that like a standard rent, or is that's just something that was agreed upon with their original lease, and we can't change it for another 5 years, so it is what it is?
Their lease was set 5 years ago with a 5-year renewal, and it was a contract, so unless you would like to break the contract, that's the contract, but they do pay for half the utilities in the entire building.
Okay, good to know. I did not know that. Okay, I believe that those are my only questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, seeing that there's no other community comments, likely, shall we
I move that we go into closed session. Second?
Let me keep Jennifer.
No, we do not have to keep Jennifer. Yeah.
No, I mean, would you please keep her? I think she should know. Issue, please.
I'm misunderstood where you were going.
No, I think she should hear the legal issue on this.